Shohei Ohtani met with Hae-Sung Kim in LA and quote-unquote gave him a lot of advice during his free agent process. It appears the Dodgers superstar did some recruiting to land Kim.
You cannot tell me that Shohei Ohtani won't or hasn't spoken to Roki Sasaki.
Thank you.
Stop.
But can you say the same, maybe Darvish, same thing?
I would hope so.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Now, time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? Happy New Year. Hour one, Jon and Jim. The future of the Padres is tied up in litigation. Welcome to 2025. So we'll start there, obviously, Jim. It was from Sportico, as you said in the update. This is a bombshell report. Now, a lawsuit's been filed by Sheel Seidler, the widow, as you said, of Peter Seidler. And the headline is Padres family fight. Seidler's widow sues brothers for control. There's probably never good timing to have an organization like up for grabs. Like, who's going to control the San Diego Padres moving forward? Of course, it's under the backdrop of our last 3 months, which is talking each and every day about Roki Sasaki. But this is a damning lawsuit. I guess that's the point of a lawsuit, right? You're trying to make your point. It's 91 pages. But there are allegations in Sheel Seidler's lawsuit against the Seidler brothers alleging racism. And she even writes, if she doesn't take control of the team, perhaps they will relocate moving forward. So bombshell lawsuit. There's never good timing for it. And truthfully, the future of the San Diego Padres is up for grabs moving forward.
Yeah, I was shocked.
I was shocked
when I saw this report this morning. But then everything that I've heard about this offseason, it was like, okay.
I agree with you.
I get it. Like, what I've been hearing, what you've been hearing is the same thing, which is that this offseason, there's been like this dark cloud over this franchise. And at first I thought it was because this team is just not going to spend any money anymore. And they're more focused on the financials than the on-field success. And, actions definitely speak louder than words. And so putting two and two together, I'm like, well, they're not making any moves. And hearing that, like, okay, that's the dark cloud. And then this drops this morning, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that's what it is. That is what's happening with this franchise behind closed doors, and it is ugly. It is potential to, really make the direction of this franchise for the future completely unknown. And I feel awful for Sheel. I feel, awful for the people that work in that building that are just trying to make this team better, like AJ Preller. And I feel awful for, the fans. Most importantly, the fans are going to be the ones that potentially are going to feel the ramifications by having this team go in a direction that, 2 years ago, it would be impossible for me to say, like, yeah, in 2 years, the team's going to potentially be on the block to be sold.
I mean, what you've just said is spot on. I agree with everything you've said. And I would say this, that what matters most, or what should matter most to Padres fans, is that whoever ends up owning this team is the right person to control it. This team means too much to too many people for it to be in the wrong person's hands. They just drew 3.2 million fans, and they're coming off a very successful year on field. They have to get this right. This is about so much more. I know we've spent 90 days on Roki Sasaki. This is about so much more than Roki Sasaki. You need to make sure this franchise is in the right person's hands moving forward. If you don't land Roki Sasaki as a result of it, and maybe there's other reasons, so be it. But this is about so much more than just the short term. This is about the long term. And this lawsuit is so damning.
Oh, it's awful.
That the allegations are so significant. And we haven't read all 91 pages, and it hasn't been publicly released as of yet, although it will be.
I did find it.
You found the entirety of it?
I found the entirety of it, yes.
All right. So again, a lawsuit is meant to present a case. That's the purpose of the lawsuit. But allegations of racism, allegations that the brothers do not want the club in control of an Indian American woman, the fact that they would consider moving the team, the fact that they don't want to pursue Peter's wishes of trying to win, bring championship caliber baseball to San Diego. Again, I think the right word is damning. I've only read a portion of it, and it makes the Seidler brothers that are in control look really bad.
It's a shame, and it's a big, black mark on the legacy of Peter for what their brothers are allegedly doing right now to this franchise. And when was it? Last week? Was it last week or it might have been last week because that was when we reunited. We were like,
we did reunite,
we
man. No
reunited
infighting here. The control of John and Jim belongs to Brent.
Yes. We didn't have a chance to talk about Jon Seidler becoming the control person in charge, taking over for Eric Casenda.
Sure. Just briefly.
And remember how like kind of upset I was? Or I just I was like, yo, look, you can put out all the PR stuff you want, but actions speak louder than words. And right now, the actions of this team are not in the vision of Peter Seidler. And to have then Jon become the point person, I've never heard Jon's name one time, not once. It was all. I heard Tom's name a lot, but Jon is now the point person of this team, and that was just really confusing to me. It didn't make any sense, and I was like, yo, I don't care what PR puff piece you're putting out there. You better follow these words with actions. And if your words are saying we want to ensure the legacy of Peter is intact, well, you damn well better start doing stuff to ensure that legacy. And you weren't. And then now this drops today, and there's part of the lawsuit that Peter had written down people that he would want the team to be entrusted to in order. And Sheel was on top of that list. You know where Jon was on that list? Like
he was like 10th, right?
He wasn't even close to the top. And then reading through the lawsuit saying how Peter's two brothers, decided and wanted to get Jon in charge because then they could, have their way with the franchise. It is just like a what the F type of moment potentially for this franchise if this goes down an even uglier path.
Well, consider this. I think the second that Jon was named chairperson is probably when the process of this lawsuit begins.
Right. She's like, what?
Someone explained to me, unless it is in writing, and it may very well be. We're not privy to all of this, but how on earth would a widow not be the control person anyway? A widow and also Peter and Sheel's children. Why wouldn't they be an heir, so to speak, in this situation? Why would it be his brothers over his widow? That would have to be explicitly laid out. So, like, now you're left to wonder, like, what's going to happen moving forward with the San Diego Padres? The last thing you want with an organization is anything holding it back from the overall goal of winning on field. Like, that's the worst possible thing that can happen with an organization. Oh, we can't spend because, or this is occurring because we're held up in litigation. Or, you know what? Jon Seidler's in control right now, but in 12 months, it might be Sheel Seidler. Or it might be one of Seidler's children, although I don't know their ages. What are the ages of his children and their children? They're young, right?
Yeah, I think they're like 11 or...
So that might be more for the future. But you get the point. Like, this is not the only professional team to be tied up in recent history by litigation. Unfortunately, you hate to tie the Padres ever to the Chargers, but the Chargers had gone through something with the family. I'm not saying it's similar, but the Chargers had gone through a lawsuit from the sister of Dean Spanos that was then eventually settled out of court. But it's never good for an organization to be held up in litigation and preventing it from doing what it should be doing. How much time have we spent this offseason saying this? The Dodgers, Giants, and Diamondbacks are getting better.
A lot.
We've spent a lot of time saying that. And the Padres need to be doing the same. And I don't know if this is the reason as to why they're not, but this leave serious questions about their direction right now this offseason and their ability to keep up with the Joneses, so to speak. And if this gets in the way of them winning in 2025, that's terrible to say, considering how well supported this team has been over the last handful of years.
All right, I want to read part of this lawsuit.
Read all 91 pages.
I mean, some people might actually find that to be interesting, honestly.
Probably, yeah.
And I found this to be fascinating. Again, there's other things in this, like, that are towards like racism and those are awful as well. But this is towards the like direction of the franchise.
Okay.
In the lawsuit, it says this: Jon, as control person, incredibly stating that his primary qualification is that he is a, quote, grandson of Walter O'Malley, who was the owner of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Jon has never worked for the Padres, spent most of his career as a civil engineer, has no ties to the San Diego community, and is far down the list of Peter's ranked choices for his successor. John's only connection to the Padres, other than the relatively small stake in the team Peter enabled him to acquire, was that Peter and Sheel provided his son a job as a photographer for the team. Shocked, Sheel and her representatives confronted Matt in October 2024. Over the last several months, Sheel was led to believe that there was a good faith interest in resolving this dispute out of court and a willingness for the Seidler brothers to step aside as trustees in favor of an independent qualified trustee. This, too, was a facade. Rather than engage in good faith, defendants strung Sheel along while they prepared an application for their brother Jon to be Padres control person. Meanwhile, Sheel, who cares deeply about the Padres and the reputation of her family, has taken great pains to keep issues related to the family and the Padres private, refraining from filing suit to enforce her rights until it became untenable to continue to do so. Man, I feel awful. I feel awful. I feel awful for Sheel. I feel awful for the fan base. I feel awful for people inside that building that, don't know what's going on, because, Peter's legacy, and we've talked about this a lot, is more than just him going out and, spending a bunch of money, right? That's a big part of it, but it's about ensuring the community has a team that they're proud of, and that the person in charge of that team cares deeply about the fans and deeply about the organization and deeply about the on-field product and wants to do whatever they possibly can to give this fan base a winning team. That ain't it right there. If that is to be true with Jon and his connection to the Padres, how he became the point person now is even more confusing to me if those allegations are true.
Well, consider this as well. Ever since the passing of Peter Seidler, the payroll has dropped ridiculously.
Yep.
And again, Sheel is not currently tied to the organization as representing ownership. So, some of what she is saying, there's some teeth to it. I mean, the payroll has come down drastically. Now, to AJ Preller's credit and that front office's credit, and those players and the coaching staff, they won. They won in 2024, but what's going to happen in 2025? What's going to happen moving forward? And who should control the San Diego Padres? We want to hear from you. Who should control the San Diego Padres moving forward? Should it be Peter's widow? Should it be Peter's brothers? 877-767-4760. Again, 877-767-4760, or you can text us, 70470. Start it with the word team, or you can hit us up on the talkback mic. Open the free iHeartRadio app. Click that little microphone icon after you hit San Diego Sports 760. We can play your talkbacks later this hour. Much more on this bombshell lawsuit. Sheel Seidler looks to take back control of the Padres from Peter Seidler's brothers. We're here until 6 p.m. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away. Don't go anywhere. It's Jon and Jim. All right, starting next Monday, San Diego Sports 760 has 9 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Brand in Your Hand cash contest. It's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. starting next Monday. Listen for the keyword, then enter at sportsst.com starting next Monday at 6 a.m. Presented by Palomar Solar, your trusted partner for solar, batteries, and roofing. With you here until 6 p.m. We do have 2 pairs of Aztec tickets for Wednesday night to give away. Ryan Batter-Kelly, San Diego State basketball assistant at 3:30. It was, I think I have the pronunciation right here, although correct me if I'm wrong. Eben Williams, who was the first to release this lawsuit at Sportico, and he will join us coming up at 5 o'clock this afternoon to discuss more. Again, the bombshell lawsuit alleging that basically Sheel Seidler was pushed out by Peter Seidler's brothers. If you want to react, 877-767-4760 or 70470. Start it with the word team. It's 91 pages, a 91-page lawsuit in which she attempts to take back control of the San Diego Padres moving forward.
More from the lawsuit that kind of just like sticks out to you.
Yeah.
Matt's efforts to promote his brother Jon as control person and to block Sheel may well be part of his efforts to sell and perhaps relocate the team.
There's the bombshell.
Over Sheel's strident objections. In any event, they are a clear breach of his fiduciary duties to Sheel. Wait, what?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you put in a lawsuit that if it stays status quo, the future of the team is in jeopardy, it could be sold or moved. I mean, that's a pretty strong allegation to make. And if true, of course, should concern every single San Diegan. Mm-hmm. San Diego's been through this. The last thing anyone should be worried about to any degree is the idea that the San Diego Padres are going anywhere. That is the last thing that any San Diegan should have to. We can concern ourselves with Roki Sasaki. We can concern ourselves with 24 consecutive scoreless innings. We can't concern ourselves with Bakersfield.
Yeah. No.
Or Las Vegas or Oakland or whatever else.
Yeah. There's other things in the lawsuit as well. Like Matt Seidler told Sheel that she lacked the experience, skills, and financial acumen necessary to be named Padres control person. There was also text messages or emails sent that encapsulated the Seidler's family views on Sheel that were very racist.
Yep.
I won't even read it on air because it's just really bad. I mean, you're kind of at a loss for words if you're just like sitting here like thinking about your mind automatically goes like worst case scenario sometimes, right, on things, and it's hard to not go there. But for things like this, it's like you just sometimes go to a worst case scenario. Now, I'm not saying the worst case scenario is going to happen. I hope it doesn't. But that's just where your mind kind of drifts sometimes.
Would you say worst case, obviously relocation, but you're saying, hey, the team ultimately is sold. They go into a cost-cutting mechanism. They're not in the interest of winning.
They're already cost-cutting.
That's the thing. Some of what she's alleging is already true, to your point. They aren't following through with his vision. They're cutting costs. They're not in the business anymore of trying to win at the level that he was trying to win at.
Right. And it's clear as day by their actions. And it's something as far as, who are you going to not blame for why they haven't made any moves? But like you're looking at AJ, and we've said it multiple times on this show with the uncertainty with who the point person was, who the owner of this team is. I can't put any blame on AJ right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't even know if he knows what the budget is, or I don't even know if he knows what's truly going on. But maybe the inactivity is a sign of like the uncertainty that is going on with the franchise. Like I can't make any moves because there's so much uncertainty here. And then now with this lawsuit today by Sheel, it kind of makes sense.
I think that's spot on. I think that there is a reason. I don't think it's a coincidence that the Padres are one of like 3 teams that have truly not spent a penny this offseason. And remember, we've made all these excuses. Maybe they're waiting on Roki. The organization is going to act post-Roki. Here's what we do know. They're going to field a team. They'll have a 26-man roster. They'll finish out. They're going to make moves. But will they make moves in the interest of really winning at the level that is necessary, or are they just making moves to make moves? And again, maybe it's a topic for not necessarily the lawsuit, But to pretend like this doesn't impact their pursuit of Roki Sasaki, I think is foolish. I think it absolutely is impactful. We said, what is the difference? The margins are so thin. You're trying to land this highly coveted player, and he's looking around, San Diego, San Francisco, Los Angeles. What are the differences? Where's the stability? We've talked about stability. He wants to be developed. He wants to win. This is the opposite of stability when the future of the organization has a shadow hanging over it or a cloud hanging over it.
Dark cloud over it, yeah.
So I don't know if he was going to come here either way. And I'm not saying he's not coming here. I'm just saying this, to me, casts additional doubt that the Padres are capable of landing a player of Roki Sasaki's caliber.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this right now, from a fan's perspective, every day of the week, they're taking Sheel's side. Like,
yes, I think by and large,
you might find one bad apple out there, but
right.
99.99% of fans are going to be backing Sheel Seidler because of how much they beloved Peter for, what he was trying to accomplish here and giving the fan base really something to like grasp onto and be proud of. Now, they didn't win, a World Series while he was alive, but still they're put in a position to be contenders, to have superstar players, to be proud of what, they have here. Did it work out? No, it didn't. In a couple years it did, but by and large, they didn't get close to winning a World Series. But if you now have this out with Jon and Matt and his other brothers being in charge of this franchise and essentially blocking out Sheel, man, you're done. You're done because the fans are going to despise you for as long as you are the control person or in charge of this team, as long as Sheel is fighting to get back that control.
Is on the outside. That's a good point. And also, you might run into a situation where your chairperson is a different individual for 3 consecutive seasons.
Yeah.
Because you went from Eric Katsenda, who was just keeping the seat warm.
Right.
Now they won. But we heard from him one time. I mean, think about that. Since Peter's passing, now you have all this instability and all these questions. We've heard from one person one time for 15 minutes. His name was Eric Katsenda. And we're like, who?
Yeah.
So you had Eric Katsenda, not his fault, but he was in charge for a year. Now you supposedly have Jon Seidler, who may not be in charge for more than a year if Sheel ultimately wins a lawsuit that, by the way, could play out for months, if not years.
Yep.
Because lawsuits are not typically, well, they could be settled, but they're not disputed over mere days.
Yeah. Do you think that Peter's brothers are going to be like, you know what?
You're right,
Yeah,
Sheel.
here you go.
You can control the team.
No, that's not going to happen.
That's going to be fought for. It's worth billions of dollars.
Yep. The Sportico put out today that the franchise is worth over $2 billion.
Yeah, only 15th in baseball, $2.03 billion, which again is good considering their market size, quote unquote.
Correct.
It's worth more than where they would be in quote unquote market size, but they're 15th in baseball at $2.03 billion.
Yeah, I saw that they're also like 84th in
professional
sports,
and they were purchased for what? Someone correct, was it in the 600 or 700 million range?
It was less than $1 billion.
It was less than $1 billion. Yeah,
it was definitely less than $1 billion. Maybe. I don't know the exact number, but anyway.
All right, we'll get your calls on the other side if you want to weigh in. Who should control the Padres and what is their direction moving forward? 877-767-4760. If you're on hold, we'll get you on the other side. 877-767-4760. Hit us up on the talkback mic. Open the brand new free iHeartRadio app. Click on San Diego Sports 760. Click on the microphone. Leave a 30-second talkback. We can play your responses or text us 70470. Start it with the word team. The future of the Padres in jeopardy. This is Jon and Jim.
All right, this update's brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. Start with the Aztecs. They beat Boise State over the weekend, 68. Really good Aztecs. Next up, they'll take on Air Force this Wednesday at Viejas Arena. 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. The NFL playoffs, they are set. Lions and Chiefs are the 1 seed. Rams will take on the Vikings next Monday night. Chargers will take on the Texans Saturday afternoon. Both games can be heard right here on San Diego Sports 760. And Sportico reported today that Sheel Seidler is filing a lawsuit against Peter's brothers over control of the team. Good news, our holiday membership sale at Superstar Car Wash is extended. Last chance to get unlimited washes for just $20. Visit superstarcarwash.com or text JOLLY to 27800 now. Terms to apply.
Kevin Acey has just published an article on this really bombshell lawsuit. Yeah, he says,
Yes. Fine.
no, he doesn't say that. He says he's suggesting or digesting the news that the lawsuit could rock the Padres. What's interesting here in the article, we'll get your reaction, by the way, if you want to weigh in. Sheel Seidler has filed a lawsuit to take over control of the Padres with Peter Seidler's brothers. 877-767-4760. What's interesting to me is that what he wrote in here was that essentially, let's see, in a far-ranging conversation with the UT in July of 2023, Peter Seidler's final public interview, Seidler said that his plan was for the Padres to remain in his family for generations. Asked what that meant and if Sheel Seidler would take over in the event of his death, Peter Seidler said he was not going to get into specifics. But so nobody really here's the one thing that nobody knows, Jim, is that what's in Peter's will. Because Sheel, like you said, filed in this lawsuit basically something from Peter that said that should he pass, here are the people he would like to take over the franchise, and she was at the top of the list. But ultimately, it's the Seidler brothers that are currently in control. What was in Peter's will? Because nobody's ever seen that. But that to me is kind of like that's the $1 million, $1 billion question. Like typically you would think when someone passes, their widow would be the heir, unless it's written otherwise in the will. But we haven't seen his will.
Yeah.
And he knew he was in declining health.
Right.
So presumably it was spelled out somewhere what would happen with the future of the franchise.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot here. And it's just a lot to digest. I know that. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot. There's a lot here. It's really hard to like on the fly digest it all. But I just know this franchise is now in very murky waters, and it's a shame because it doesn't. They were so close to potentially going over that hump last year, and then it just fell flat, and the 24 scoreless innings and losing the Dodgers went up 2-1. And all we've talked about this offseason, or I've preached, is like, if you're this if you were perceived and you felt like this close, where's that one move to like get you over the top? Now it could be Roki. The Roki thing is, I mean, that's up in the air now. I mean, if you're Roki Sasaki, do you want to join this organization knowing what is going on right now with the ownership group and the uncertainty of the future of the franchise? I don't know.
It would have to surprise a lot of people if Roki Sasaki ended up in San Diego.
Yeah, it just feels like the way this offseason has gone, like to have that big splash landing of Roki Sasaki, I don't know if it's coming. Because it's been kicking the groin after kicking the groin after kicking the groin. You know, you can't re-sign players because you don't want to spend money. You haven't made any trades. There's all talks now of trading Luis Arraez to the Yankees, and discussions of Dylan Cease on the trade block. You've done nothing, and it feels like because they've done nothing, everybody around them is getting better, which is actually what's happening. Dodgers are not settling. They're looking to win multiple World Series. The D-backs, they are, even without their TV deal, are like, we're going to spend money. The Giants, they've made a big splash with Willie Adames. They can still make some more moves as well. it felt like this thing was going up, and now it feels like it's coming crashing down. Like this team can't stay on a trajectory that's even. It's like up and down, and up and down, and up and down. It's just so disheartening if you're a fan.
Kevin wrote this, and this kind of summarizes what you just said. This is in the second to last paragraph of his article. Several people around the league said in December that the uncertainty over the Padres' ownership had all but paralyzed their ability to make moves.
Yeah.
That's from Kevin Acey of the UT, who covers the Padres beat. Again, several people around the league said in December the uncertainty over the Padres' ownership had all but paralyzed their ability to make moves. And then you see, and then the actions confirm that, which is they've done absolutely nothing. They just won 93 games. They just got within a game of getting to a National League Championship Series for the second time in 3 years, and they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs, so to speak. I mean, it's not to say that they can't make moves. They will at some point. And if they land Roki Sasaki, then AJ Preller's a magician. If they land Roki Sasaki, he's a true magician.
Dude.
If they somehow land Roki Sasaki. But even beyond Roki, Jim, I mean, you could land Roki Sasaki. That's not going to solve all issues in the short term or moving forward.
No.
But, I mean, if they land Roki Sasaki, it's going to be one of the – I don't even know how to describe that if that happens after I read through this.
Yeah, you read through that, and you just feel like nothing good is ever going to happen to the Padres ever again. You're like, can we please get just 2 years in a row of – no drama?
Mm-hmm.
Like, seriously, the last 6 years, there's not been consecutive seasons of drama-free Padres baseball. It hasn't. 2019, the team quit. They fired Andy Green.
Yep.
2020 was good, even though it was a short season and was a fake year, but still, it was something to get our minds off of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
2021, the epic collapse, the articles about, the dysfunction inside the organization with AJ Preller. 2022, great year. 2023, disaster. And then Peter passes away. 2024, great year. Now we're in the 2025 year, and you get this. Like, every single season, it's up and down and up and down and up and down. And this, to me, of all the things that have happened with this franchise, I would put Peter's passing at the top of the list, but I put this right below it.
Yeah, I agree with that. And by the way, Kevin also wrote, remember we talked about the note, Sheel was at the top in this lawsuit of, hey, who should assume control, assuming Peter's no longer here? And Sheel included something that said her name was at the top. Listen to this paragraph, though. This is in contrast to what multiple people in and around the franchise have said over the course of the past 2 years. Since rumors of his declining health began circulating in 2023, people who were close to Peter Seidler have contended he said his wife would not assume control of the team when he died.
Kevin wrote that?
Kevin wrote that. This is in contrast to what multiple people in and around the franchise have said over the course of the last 2 years. Since rumors of his declining health began in 2023, people who were close to Peter have contended he said his wife would not assume control of the team when he died. What do you mean? He said it? Is it documented?
Man, that's something that's something that you.
Well, that's the thing. We haven't seen the will.
You got to be careful if you're reporting that, especially with this lawsuit that now just came out today.
All right, let's go to the phones. 877-767-4760. Let's start with Dave, who's been very patient on line 2. 877-767-4760. Dave, thanks for calling in. Happy New Year. You're on with Jon and Jim.
Same back to you guys. What a way to start. Well,
right.
A few things here. Number one, welcome to all of us from 1969 that have seen Padres ownerships after Padres ownerships eventually implode for various reasons. Whether this one ends up like that or not, at least you can say there's some pretty heavy storm clouds out there. Point number 2, to take you back to when Jeff Morad sold the club. Jeff Morad sold the club shortly after, thereabouts, the Valley TV deal made the Padres very, very attractive because of all of that money that was coming in off of the TV revenue sources that allowed the Padres in the future to become markedly competitive. That's gone now, and you've seen the end result of what has happened over the last 2 years with very peculiar behavior from whoever is running the ball club. I find what's most fascinating, if I read Kevin Acey's articles correctly, 55% of the club is not owned by the Seidlers or the O'Malleys. There's a whole group of other unnamed investors, I would assume, that want to get paid at this point. So when Mrs. Seidler brings up the notion that this club may be being set up for sale, I wouldn't be surprised in the least, because the financial conditions have changed so dramatically as to when this franchise was purchased in the beginning that that would not surprise me in the least. So what I would hope for a deep pockets owner someplace. We're going to need another angel to come into San Diego and save this franchise, because I don't think, from what I've seen, this group, the way it's composed of right now, they have shown no willingness or ability to be able to compete on the level of the Dodgers and a lot of the other teams that have sources of income.
Thank you, Dave. Yeah, I mean, they're not going to compete on the level of the Dodgers financially.
No,
But-
not unless they got a Steve Cohen in charge.
But to his point, payroll's way down.
Yep.
They borrowed money from Major League Baseball.
Yep.
There's no indications payroll's going up.
Yep.
In fact, this confirms everything that's been written by Kevin, Dennis, whomever.
Yeah.
They're not touching the CBT threshold next year. They're not even going to, they won't approach it at the end of the day.
And I'm sorry, like, for anybody out there that says this was all part of the plan, even if Peter were still here, BS. I can't buy that for one second. Not to this level. No freaking way. It's actually kind of hard for me to believe that they even trade Juan Soto in the offseason, because that happened after Peter's passing.
It did.
Now, could they still have done it if Peter were still with us? Yeah, of course. But anything after Peter's passing, as far as like, oh yeah, this was the direction of the team all along, they were going to always do this, they were always going to do that, I don't believe it. I really don't. I'm sorry, I don't. Because it's a he said, she said, and there's no way for us to know. It's like the same things I said about when Scott Boras was touting, yeah, of course Juan Soto was going to sign with the Padres. Peter had it ready to go. It's like, how could you say that? Peter's not here. To put words in someone's mouth that's not here to defend themselves is like insane.
But here's the thing. He was sick for a long period of time. He controlled billions of dollars of assets. It's very hard for me to envision it wasn't specifically spelled out in some legal document or will with attorneys, the future direction of the organization.
Yeah. And now the piece of paper of the names on the list for control person or for control persons is just on a piece of paper.
It's not like a legal document.
No, it's not. I mean, yeah, you can't say that's a legal document, but still, if that were Peter's handwriting and that was written by Peter, that's as close as you're going to get to like anything being like officially official.
True, but when was it written?
Exactly.
Is there an actual will?
Right.
Was there an attorney representing Peter? Is there a specific document that outlined the future direction of the San Diego Padres? But now you go back with the benefit of hindsight. Why was Eric Katsenda overseeing for a year? Did they have they had to get their house in order for this long? Peter passed how many months ago?
Well,
and the house still isn't in order.
Yeah, but like I said, these things take a lot of time.
This has been a lot of time.
And when Eric Katsenda got named the point person, I thought that was going to be for a year, 2 tops, and then it was going to change.
Yep.
And that's exactly what happened. It was a year, and then they named Jon the control person, and then reading this lawsuit, it seems like everything was done to make sure that Sheel would not become the control person, and the person that was put in charge shouldn't be in charge because that person knows jack squat about the Padres.
All right, much more, including your reaction on our text line, 70470, started with team, or you can call us 877-767-4760, or hit us up on the talkback mic, leave a 30-second talkback, hit the little microphone icon after you search for San Diego Sports 760 in the all-new iHeartRadio app. We can play your 30-second talkbacks. We'll be joined by the writer, by the way, of the Sportico article on the lawsuit, really breaking the story, Eben Novy-Williams. Will join us at 5 p.m. Don't go anywhere. It's Jon and Jim. Right, if you haven't downloaded the all-new iHeartRadio app for 2025, now is the time. Check it out. You can listen to Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. You can leave those talkbacks. By the way, we have a few talkbacks we'll play coming up at 3 p.m. So if you want to react, you control the Padres moving forward. Open the app. Click on San Diego Sports 760. Click on the microphone. You can leave a 30-second talkback. We'll play it on air. You can do that right now. We'll play those on air. Coming up at 3 p.m. Again, the news of the day is that Peter Seidler's widow, Sheel Seidler, has sued Peter's brothers for control of the Padres. The allegations are strong ones. It is a very damning lawsuit. That's the point of a lawsuit, but 91 pages. She says that perhaps they would consider moving the team. They certainly aren't aligned with Peter's vision of trying to bring a championship to the city of San Diego. And not that the lawsuit confirms anything, but it does kind of make you, again, if you've been scratching your head, why have the Padres done absolutely nothing? I think this answers some of it because they've been tied up in potential litigation and they don't know who's in charge. From Katsenda to Jon Seidler to maybe Sheel Seidler, ever since Peter's passing, it's basically been A.J. Preller keeping this on-field operation running to his credit.
Yeah, and you can do that for a season.
Absolutely.
But can you do that for the next 5 to 10 years? Like, can you have a stable franchise for the foreseeable future? With everything that's going on now, like, I don't know if they can. I really don't. I just, the one thing that I just keep going back to today is just sadness for a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
The fans, especially, at the top of my list. Sheel is up there as well.
Yeah.
But all in all, like, the direction of this franchise is a completely unknown right now. Completely unknown.
No, it is. I mean, you're completely correct. And it is so unfortunate. How many times have we said over the last few years? How many times have we had to say, are you having an issue with your internet?
Are you having an issue with
your
internet?
I was a moment ago, but I think it's back. So
can this place have some freaking good internet one time?
I can't answer that. It's not in the lawsuit. But it's just such a shame, to your point. Like, you're drawing 3 million fans to Petco Park right now. 2 years ago, they set a franchise record for attendance. They weren't good. They went 82-80. They did all that in September. They were like 8 games under 500 in September. It's like a Thursday night against the Colorado Rockies. School's back in session. There's 40,000 people there. So it's like, this is the last thing in the world that the fan base deserves. Like, the Padres got to get their house in order for the betterment for San Diego and Padres fans, that there's infighting and nobody knows what's going on and the future of this organization. It's hard enough to beat the Dodgers. This only makes it harder.
Oh, 100%. You have to have all your ducks in order here to win a championship. You don't see teams with dysfunction like this winning championships. You don't.
Yeah, look at the Chargers' history.
You just name me one franchise that has had dysfunction in it that went on to win a championship in that season or in the near, future of the franchise. Name me one, because I can't think of anyone right now.
Neither can I.
So this only makes it harder on themselves. And I don't blame Sheel at all, because, if everything that is in this lawsuit that she's alleging comes out to be factual, then she should absolutely do this. It's her right, and all the power to her. Team Sheel all the way, And if the brothers of Peter are doing this and they're keeping this team to be there, I saw this article from Bill Shaken, and he mentions that where is it? And it's kind of like encapsulated what the lawsuit's about. Where is it here? This is great radio. Love it. Basically it's talking about how Peter's brothers are just going to make this franchise. Here we go. In a lawsuit filed in Texas, Sheel Seidler alleged two of Peter's brothers have, quote, misappropriated and misused the assets of Peter Seidler who died in 2023. She further alleged that the brothers, quote, treat the team as their own plaything to be passed back and forth on a whim. Yeah, that's it's not great.
No, this whole thing isn't great. I'm kind of beginning to like get into the meat of this lawsuit, which is 91 pages.
Yeah. Well, when you start seeing and hearing things like that, along with, like we haven't even mentioned like the racism, well, we have, but like not even really gone into it. But like there are some things here that are awful. This ain't just like bickering back and forth. This is the war. This is like Game of Thrones. This is like House of Dragon. It's like Succession. I mean, if you're trying to like equate it to something to understand it more, that's how I view it.
How about this? On the other side, your talkbacks plus Roki Sasaki makes the lawsuit. Roki Sasaki is specifically mentioned in the lawsuit. I am dead serious, and we'll share it with you on the other side. Hour 2 of Jon and Jim is next.
All right, this update is brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. Aztecs coming off their big win at Boise State over the weekend. Have a couple games this week. First up, they'll take on Air Force this Wednesday night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that right here on San Diego Sports 760. NFL playoffs are set. Lions and Chiefs, they're the 1 seeds in the AFC and NFC. Rams will take on the Vikings next Monday night. Chargers will take on the Texans Saturday afternoon. Both games can be heard right here on San Diego Sports 760. And Sportico reported today, Sheel Seidler, the widow of Peter, filed lawsuit against Peter's brothers over control of the franchise. Good news, our holiday membership sale at Superstar Car Wash is extended. Last chance to get unlimited washes for just $20. Visit superstarcarwash.com or text JOLLY to 27800. Now, terms to apply.
Previously on Jon and Jim.
According to Korean media reports, Shohei Ohtani met with Hae-Sung Kim in LA and quote-unquote gave him a lot of advice during his free agent process. It appears the Dodgers superstar did some recruiting to land Kim.
You cannot tell me that Shohei Ohtani won't or hasn't spoken to Roki Sasaki.
Thank you.
Stop.
But can you say the same, maybe Darvish, same thing?
I would hope so.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Now, time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego and Southern California, what's going on? It's hour 2, Jon and Jim, the future of the Padres in control as we start, or in jeopardy, really. Murky. The future of the Padres is murky heading into 2025 against Sportico. Broke the news, and the writer of that article will join us at 5 p.m. It's the lawsuit from Sheel Seidler, Peter Seidler's widow, suing the brothers of Peter for future control of the San Diego Padres. Now, I mentioned that Roki said this is not the way you want to make the news in your pursuit of Roki Sasaki, would be my guess. But Roki Sasaki is in the lawsuit. He is in the lawsuit. This is what Sheel writes in the litigation, or the representation for Sheel writes in this lawsuit. The significance of Sheel's involvement with the Padres is well documented, with tangible results that have drawn attention from the press. For instance, a recent column in the San Diego Union Tribune underscored Sheel's critical role in successfully recruiting players, offering the opinion that Sheel Seidler, the former chairman's wife, should be a part of the Padres team that tries to woo Roki Sasaki, given the culture that she and Peter created for the Padres. So Sheel and her lawyers offering the opinion that she should be a part of the recruitment of the top pitching prospect in the world, Roki Sasaki, who has yet to sign with the team, can as soon as January 15th. Well, Roki
made it to San Diego.
You made the news.
You made the news. You were at the Padres.
Hey, vey.
I just oh man, it's brutal because the more that we find in this lawsuit, it doesn't get any better. It doesn't. That's just what I got.
Yeah, no, I hear you, man.
Because I feel so bad for the fans. I feel so bad for Sheel. I feel bad for AJ, the front office that are trying to do things with a good team. This is a good team. And now they're in the middle of a potential tug of war for the right to who is going to be the point person and own the franchise.
Right.
And you got one side, which is what everybody wants, which is they want Sheel to be in charge, because if anything, it feels like Sheel has the pulse of the fan base and she has the best interest of the fan base.
Right.
It might not always work out like it did with Peter. It might not always work out, but to have an owner that has the best interest of their fans is the type of owner that you want in charge.
I agree with that.
And then on the other side, you seemingly got brothers who are viewing this thing as their personal play toy, and they got somebody in charge that has knows nothing about the franchise, has no connections to the team, isn't here, never even heard of Jon Seidler before.
Right, until the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
I don't know if he's ever been to Petco Park before.
I'm sure he has.
And you got him now in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a tug of war of I'm not going to say good and evil because, again, these are allegations. This is not completely all true. But it also is really hard to not look at this and be 100% on Team Sheel's side here from everything that has transpired since the passing of Peter and how the actions of the franchise line up with what's in this lawsuit.
The timing, again, I don't think was ever going to be good.
Never going to be good. No.
But it actually makes a lot of sense because Jon Seidler was just named chairperson
weeks ago.
Within weeks. And this comes on the heels of them basically having someone keep the seat warm. That was Eric Atsendas. So that was understandable as this was being worked out. But it's almost like now it's been worked out. And ultimately, they determined that the Seidler brothers / family would have control of the franchise, not his widow and his children. And that's why she has filed this lawsuit. It comes just weeks after Jon Seidler was named the next chairperson of the San Diego Padres. And now what happens? If she wins this lawsuit, does she become the chairperson in 2026? Is this somehow settled out of court? Does this go to court? How long does this take to be resolved? Is this months or years before it's resolved? And while this plays out, is the organization putting its best foot forward in terms of trying to win on field? That's the primary concern for me. To your point, like the collateral damage. And I do feel honestly, I feel for all parties involved because I don't know the truth. So I feel for the parties involved. You never want this to play out publicly. Like you said, it's like Succession. You don't want that to play out publicly. But the collateral damage is like Padres fans. You've got this city of San Diego. Peter said that this was basically a San Diego trust. Mm-hmm. The club was for San Diegans. And now San Diegans are being held hostage as this plays out in like the public forum. And that's really too bad, considering the way 2024 ended so disappointingly. 24 consecutive scoreless innings, had the Dodgers on the ropes, then you let them off the ropes and they win the World Series. To now you head into 2025, and this is the way we start the new year, with a lawsuit, with the future of the organization in jeopardy. What happens next? It's a damn shame is what it is.
Yep, it's awful. It just makes a already gloomy offseason even worse. And, oh, by the way, they're in the midst of trying to land a player that could really kind of change the fortunes of the franchise 100%. On the field. Like you could, if you land Roki Sasaki, you could potentially be landing the next Paul Skeens. Like, think about that.
Yeah, Jeff Passan just said that in a podcast.
So it's not like everything we're just waiting until spring training starts. Like, no, they have to still make moves. This team is not even close to finished yet. Like, they have to make a move.
Oh, yeah.
They need a left fielder. They need a first baseman, potentially. Mm-hmm. They need to resolve the potential, I guess, landing spots for Luis Arraez and Dylan Cease if they're not going to keep those players and they're not going to go pay them in arbitration or give them a contract, which at this point in time, it feels like no one's getting a contract.
Right. It's like, Manny, can you use some of your money to help us get some players?
Yeah. Can we
How
start
much money do you have in your bank account?
Can we start a GoFundMe account with you guys?
Manny, I need $200K. Toddy, I need $300K.
Xander, we need like $280 million.
We need all your money, dude.
We need every single last bit of your money. But now my next thought goes to, all right, this is now the biggest story of the offseason by far.
By far. Was it bigger than Roki?
Yeah.
If they land him?
If they land Roki, it will be big.
Both are big stories.
This is nothing's bigger than this.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Okay.
This, I mentioned last hour, the last 6 years of this up and down roller coaster, and maybe the last 15 years, the two, in my mind, biggest stories are the passing of Peter.
Yep.
And now this lawsuit by Sheel.
And also, what do the odd years represent in this recent trajectory? 19, 21, 23. Yeah. I mean, 19, 21, 23 were disasters.
Yep.
This is not a good way to start 2025. And you're behind the eight ball regardless of this because you're in the NL West and the other teams are improving themselves on field. At the end of the day, that's what we're going to care about. When it's March 27th and they're in the seventh inning, we're going to care about who's on the mound or who's at the plate. That's what's going to matter ultimately once the season starts. That's its own issue. That they put themselves in a position where it's going to be hard to emulate 2024. We all agree with that. It's going to be hard to win 93 games in 2025. Is it now going to be harder because of all these headwinds and everything that's playing out off field? What impact will the off field have on the on-field. And by the way, someone's going to have to speak on this because spring training starts in a couple of weeks.
That was my next
we
thought.
need to hear from a human being.
Well, they've already declined comment. We're the only station in town that's going to be talking about this. We're the only people in town that will be talking about this. And what is going to happen when we get to spring training? Because this ain't going to be resolved before then. I'd be shocked if it is. Spring training is like pitchers and catchers report in a little over a month.
Mm-hmm.
And they still haven't even gotten close to finishing this roster yet. So when they get to spring training, what happens every year? You got like a State of the Union press conference with the point person, which was always Peter or Ron, the last,
7 years
since they own the team, right? And then last year it was Casenda and Grupner.
Yep.
What's going to happen when whoever they trot out there is going to talk? Are they just going to send out Grupner? Are they just going to send out AJ to take take all these questions and say, I got no comment on this? Like, what's going to happen? Because there's going to need to be some answers here. And the questions are going to have to be asked. And if Jon is now the point person of this team, which he is, bro, you're going to have to answer some questions.
Or are they just going to bring out those Muppet characters like at the beginning?
Right.
What were their names? Like those two old guys that they brought out on the Muppets before the show? Statler and someone?
Waldorf.
Thank you. I mean, seriously, well, think about this now. Because we said, hey, you might have 3 different chair people in 3 years. You already do.
Yep.
Seidler before his passing in 2023.
2023, yeah.
Katsenda in 2024.
Yeah.
Jon Seidler supposedly in 2025. That could change. If Sheel Seidler is able to win this lawsuit, or it's settled where she takes control of the organization and she's the new chairperson in 2025 or 2026, you could have 4 chair people over 4 years. And I do think it's disingenuous and unfair to the fan base that we never hear from ownership. Since Peter's passing, and this may be Sheel's point in her lawsuit.
Yeah.
Like, since Peter's passing, and how many times have we said this and other people are like, oh, quiet down, everything's fine. And then she alleges the same thing. Since his passing, we've heard from one person one time for 14 minutes. It was Eric Katsenda in a sweater. It was a nice sweater at spring training in February, where I thought he was
great
good.
Sweater. Yeah.
I thought he was fine. I
Nice
thought he
haircut.
spoke well. Yeah, we had never seen him. We didn't even know if he was an actual person or if he was AI.
But he was always the person to keep the seat warm. He never was going to be a guy that was going to be in that position for like 5 to 10 years. I just never believed
and
that.
It wasn't his fault he was in the job.
No, it wasn't. And, now looking at the future here, like the questions with this franchise, I mean, I said this a month ago. It was like, hey, who's in charge here? This is before Jon. Like, who's in charge?
Yeah.
Like, no one's talking about this. Like, who's running this team? I mean, Eric Katsenda's not saying anything. I mean, the reports are that this team is just not going to spend any money. They're trying to lower payroll even more. Like, who's in charge here? And then they came out with Jon being the control person.
And we're like, who?
Like, huh?
Like, of all the people, it was Jon?
If anything,
I would be Tom.
I thought it was be Tom. Because Tom's at least shown face and he's been around and it seems like he has this care for the franchise. I know nothing about Jon. He has the same last name as Peter Seidler, or he has the Seidler last name,
right, but that alone is not a reason also to own the team.
That means nothing.
Yeah,
I agree. Nothing.
All right, on the other side, by the way, as this plays out, baseball moves are happening everywhere today. It's a very active day in Major League Baseball. And what does this mean in the Padres' pursuit of Roki Sasaki? Plus, we'll change topics briefly. Aztecs had a huge win on Saturday in Boise. Ryan Battertelli, first-year assistant for the Aztecs, will join us at 3:30. We'll give away Aztec basketball tickets after that conversation for Wednesday night against Air Force. But what does this mean for Roki Sasaki as baseball continues to move? Stay with us on Jon and Jim. Oh, we need to get to those talkbacks. Got those talkbacks. You can do this up on the iHeartRadio app. Search for San Diego Sports 760, and you can leave a 30-second talkback line. Click on the microphone. We'll play them on air. Also, keep up with San Diego Sports 760 anytime, anywhere. Whether you're stepping out of the car, settling in at home, just ask your Google or Alexa smart speaker to play AM 760, or stream it live through the iHeartRadio app. It's never been easier to stay connected with your favorite shows like this one. San Diego Sports 760 goes where you go. And on days like today is why we've got people tuning in, because, again, we're going to talk about this from an unbiased opinion, and we're going to cover the news as it relates to the San Diego Padres. Do we want to hear from those on the talkback, Mike?
Absolutely, yeah.
All right. So, again, you can do the talkback. Just open the app, click on 760, and click on the microphone and leave us the talkback like these listeners.
Hey, guys, quick question. Didn't Peter Seidler have a will or a living trust that specifically states who gets ownership of the Padres? If that is so, I think it would be obvious who owns the Padres. Thanks.
Sheel should control the Padres. She's a very smart woman. She knows what she's doing. Those brothers are not very smart, and they do not know what they're doing. I've talked to Sheel. She knows exactly what baseball's about. Smart woman. Do not believe these other people, and fans will definitely be behind Sheel all day, every day.
Yeah, I just love how there's so nothing going on in San Diego sports that we all need to now be stuck in the middle of some Judge Judy episode of these people just with billions of dollars of money complaining about whether or not they get to control a team of people. Like, come on now. It's like, can I say get bent on the radio? Is that too far? Did I go too far? I don't care about this at all.
But you do.
You have to, because if you don't, then
you wouldn't have
you can't own people, man.
I mean,
let me just say this real quick.
Yeah.
To that person on the talkback mic. Thanks for sending the talkback mic in. But I respectfully disagree with you wholeheartedly. This has now turned in to the number one story of the offseason. I don't care what anyone else says. And if they tell you otherwise, then they're lying to you or they're part of the team. They can't talk. So if you think that the control of the Padres franchise isn't a big deal, I got nothing for you.
Yeah.
I just
it's
don't.
It's a huge deal.
I mean, the Sheel, the widow of Peter, is essentially saying she is being pushed out when this is basically her right to be the control person of this team, because that's what Peter wanted. That's what she's allegedly saying. And the brothers of Peter are allegedly doing the complete opposite of what Peter wanted and using this franchise as their like play toy. And it's a mess. It is an absolute mess.
And meanwhile, as this plays out, like this idea that, there's nothing going on in San Diego, so the biggest story is the future of the San Diego Padres. But the future of the San Diego Padres is a pretty big deal, especially when you see around baseball all the moves that continue to be made. Michael Lorenzen, right-handed pitcher, has signed with the Kansas City Royals. Gavin Lux from the Dodgers has been traded to the Cincinnati Reds. All of this has played out in the last 2 or so hours. And the Padres remain sitting on their hands. Now, that's not going to continue for forever. You know Preller's ready. You know the Padres will do everything in their power to be viable. Okay? They will do that. But you got to ask yourself, they have been eerily quiet. Mm-hmm. And we kept saying, well, maybe it's because of Roki Sasaki, and maybe that is true. But he's still not going to sign for at least 2 weeks. We heard it'll be January 20th at the earliest. And then 2 weeks later, spring training starts. At some point, they're going to have to make moves, and they will. But you have to wonder, is this getting in the way of them doing everything in their power to win? And that's a fair question.
And yeah, you can say if they made a lot of their moves in February last year that were the most beneficial to the team, like signing Jorgensen Profar, trading for Dylan Cease, and trading for Luis Arraez in season. Okay. They also made a bunch of trades beforehand. Now, a bunch, I mean one, and that was the big Juan Soto trade. And that was a move. That was an actual move. They haven't made one. Not one. And they have, and I can understand if they haven't signed a player. I get that. They're waiting for Roki. I still think that after the Roki news drops, there will be a domino effect because you got to start building your roster for 2025.
Absolutely.
But the fact that still there has been no activity, not even one single trade, is alarming. And then to see this today, it all makes sense. It all is like, okay, I get it. Hearing about the black cloud that's felt in that organization at Petco Park, was wondering, like, what is that black cloud that we keep hearing about from down at Petco? Feels like this is it.
We'll be joined by the author from Sportico that broke the news of the lawsuit. He'll join us at 5 p.m. On the other side, we'll switch gears for about 10 minutes because San Diego State is coming off a huge win on the road at Boise State. We'll give away Aztec tickets coming up for Wednesday night. If you want to see San Diego State against Air Force at Viejas, Wednesday night, Ryan Battertelli, he's done a great job. First-year assistant with the Aztecs, will join us next to talk about the Boise win, to talk about Wednesday. We'll give away tickets. Then we'll get back to the bombshell allegation and lawsuit from Sheel Seidler. Who controls the Padres moving forward? It's Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. We'll start with the Aztecs. They beat Boise State over the weekend, 76-68. Next up, they take on Air Force this Wednesday at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. The NFL playoffs, they are set. Lions and Chiefs, they are the 1 seeds in the NFC and the AFC. Rams will take on the Vikings on Monday Night Football. Chargers will take on the Texans on Saturday afternoon. Both games can be heard right here on San Diego Sports 760. We've been talking about it all day. Sportico reported today that Sheel Seidler, the widow of Peter Seidler, filed a lawsuit against Peter's brothers over the control of the franchise. Good news, our holiday membership sale at Superstar Car Wash is extended. Last chance to get unlimited washes for just $20. Visit superstarcarwash.com or text JOLLY to 27800 now. Terms do apply.
All right, so we have a pair of tickets to give away for Wednesday night. San Diego State back at Viejas against Air Force. Mountain West play continues. And after our conversation with Ryan Battertelli, who's with us right now, San Diego State first-year assistant coach will give those tickets away. So be listening. We've got a pair of tickets. San Diego State Air Force Wednesday night at 7:30, a game you can hear right here on San Diego Sports 760. It's great to have Ryan back with us on Jon and Jim. First of all, Coach, thank you and Happy New Year, and congratulations on Saturday as well.
Hey, Happy New Year to you too. Thank you so much for having me. Great road win for us. Great way to start the year. We're excited to keep it going. We didn't end the year as well as we'd liked, but we started it off on the right foot. Feel like we got a little bit of that back, but we got to continue to build on that momentum.
Tell us about, it's amazing because you turn the tables on Boise on the glass. They were one of the better rebounding teams in America. They were plus 10 per game, and you finished the game plus 10. Out rebounding Boise State 39-29. And it's not the only time this year that SDSU has been really good on the glass against really good rebounding teams. I'm thinking about Cal, Utah State, Houston, and now Boise State. What are you seeing from this team as they progress, specifically in the rebounding areas?
I think it's just an intent. I mean, it's for us, it's continue to be focused on the things that we have, that are a task for us. Rebounding is going to be huge for us. I think Magoon Guap has taken a huge step on both sides of the glass in terms of understanding what physicality and contact means. That's been great for him. Our guards have been really active on the glass as well. We want to run. I mean, we want to get out and run. And we've told them the only way that we're going to get out and run is all 5 guys are going to have to go to the glass. And we're going to have to be able to use our speed and athleticism once we rebound. And I think they've taken to that. And then on the other side of the ball, just being more aggressive on the offensive glass. I mean, we talk about getting through the elbows with our guards, being more, active on that side of the ball as well. And so I think just the intent and focus on that has helped us improve because we're certainly athletic and long enough to be able to do it.
Obviously you want to learn things in wins and not in losses, but the loss to Utah State, having the big lead, blowing that in the late minutes of that game, I couldn't help but notice during the closing minutes against Boise here, Dutch was screaming a lot, finish, finish, finish. How important was it to make sure that game didn't slip away from you against Boise? And how, I guess as a coach, how nice is it to be put in that situation right away and then come out on the other side with a win?
Well, going back to the Utah State game, I mean, after the game we said, hey, we didn't want it to come then, but we knew we were going to have to learn through a loss one of these times because we hadn't had to really taste our medicine in a couple of the other wins where we hadn't finished as great as we wanted to. And unfortunately, it came at home against Utah State in a really important game. But that pain is important a lot of times for young teams and teams that are growing together. This team grows every time we take the court. We haven't played a ton of games together yet. And so every one of these games is an incredible opportunity for us to grow and to learn, more about each other and how to play and how to finish games. And so, we went through that and I think we're better for it in the Boise State game. And so that shows growth and we got to learn from a win. I mean, we watched the last 2 minutes again today after practice of the Boise State game because we weren't great. We have to finish better and we have to be able to make those plays. And so we got to make our free throws. We got to be able to, attack a press, better. And so those are all things we're learning. And so we got to learn off a win this time. And hopefully we continue to learn off wins rather than losses.
Ryan Battertelli is with us, San Diego State assistant coach. Again, the Aztecs of Air Force Wednesday night at 7:30. We'll give away a pair of tickets in just a few moments. Miles Bird, a career high in terms of points. He just continues to impress. What's it been like from your seat to watch him every day in practice and the way he's performed on the floor so far this year?
I think the biggest thing for Miles is just his growth as a young man more than anything. And that's what you enjoy as much as anything as a college coach, is watching young men, grow and develop. And as much as anything, and obviously I think a lot of people see the growth in his production, but I think both, on and off the court, I mean, he's become more of an everyday guy. He's shown up every day, both, as an athlete and as a leader. Taking care of his body, making sure he recovers the right way so that he can be available every day. Those are huge areas of growth, and he's been able to see the results of that, that commitment. And I think that's important for him as he continues to grow within our program. And so it's fun to be able to see, him be able to enjoy some of those fruits of his labor, but he also knows that he's just scratching the surface in terms of what he can be. But it's been really fun to see him, grow as a leader in this team, because again, his role is significantly different than what it was last year. And so that's been a huge change too. So even though he's a common face amongst fans and people around here, his role is really different, and especially as a leader and being consistent. And so I think that's really important.
Taj DeGorville named Freshman of the Week in the Mountain West Conference. He had a great game against Boise, 13 points, 6 rebounds in the win. Like, he's not playing like a freshman, Coach. I mean, watching the Pharaoh, I know he was out last game, but him and Taj, I mean, these guys, it feels like they are well beyond their years so far, already at the stage that they're at.
Well, I'm glad you see that, because I don't think that every day with these guys. There are knuckleheads, and they're an absolute joy to be around and to coach. And again, those are two guys that, I think especially in college basketball, like, our job as coaches is to make our guys do hard things consistently. And that's not comfortable all the time, especially for young guys that are typically the best guys where they're coming from, and things are a little bit easy for them. And so we have to make them uncomfortable. And the fact that both those guys have leaned into that discomfort is exactly why they've grown at the rate that they've grown. And they've still got a long way to go, and may be the first ones to admit that. But it's really exciting for us to see both those guys take huge strides, mostly because they have accepted coaching and they accepted the things that are hard from them. And that's been great. And I think those guys will continue to grow and develop, especially on the defensive side of the ball, where, you play high school basketball and AAU basketball, and you can guard your man, but how do you guard more than one guy? How do you give your teammate, support and be there for them when things break down? And I think that's the growth that we're seeing more than anything from both Taj and Pharaoh.
Ryan Battertelli is with us. We'll give away tickets for Wednesday night, San Diego State Air Force coming up. Speaking of Air Force, what does it take? Obviously, they play a unique style with intricacies of Princeton-style offense. What does it take to prepare for a team that plays in a style that not a lot of teams play in?
Well, as Dutch says all the time, no matter what they look like on film, and that's every team in our league, we're going to get a different version of that when we play them, because the bar is set with San Diego State basketball, and every team that comes in here is going to want to measure themselves and see how good they are, and the opportunity to do that is against us. And so we know we're going to get the best version of Air Force, and they're a good team. They're a team that shoots it well. They're a team that plays a matchup zone, which is kind of hard to figure out a little bit, especially if you're trying to figure it out like a puzzle. You got to play good offense. You got to play for each other. You got to drive the ball. You got to go inside. You got to get to the offensive glass, and you got to run in transition. But they do a lot of different things that try to confuse you, and they do a good job turning teams over. So we're going to have to take care of the ball. We're going to have to run on them. We're going to have to be aggressive. And then defensively, we're going to have to be us. We're going to have to pressure the ball. We're going to have to take away threes. We're going to have to limit their second chance points. I mean, we're going to have to be good on both sides of the ball, to play, to beat against a good Air Force team that is good. They've been competitive, throughout the year. And so they're very dangerous, as we well know, and we're going to have to take care of business at home.
Yeah, coming off a close game and a loss to Wyoming. Air Force, I think, lost by 5 points in their last game this past weekend. Ryan, thank you again. We're looking forward to Wednesday night, San Diego State and the Air Force Academy. Again, Happy New Year. We'll see you at Viejas, and thanks for hopping on today.
Awesome. Look forward to seeing everybody on Wednesday. Thanks so much for having me.
All right, great stuff. Ryan Battertelli, have enjoyed speaking with him in his first year on the Mesa, San Diego State assistant coach for Brian Dutcher, and we did promise you some Aztec basketball tickets. So why don't we give those away right now? Because on the other side, we'll continue to react to the Sheel Seidler lawsuit followed against Peter's brothers for control of the San Diego Padres moving forward. Again, if you want those tickets, we have 2 free tickets to San Diego State Air Force on Wednesday night. All you need to do is be caller number 7 right now. 877-767-4760. 2 free tickets to see the Aztecs Wednesday night at 7:30 against Air Force, coming off that huge win over Boise. 877-767-4760. Caller 7, those are your tickets. We continue to react to this lawsuit. What does it mean for the Padres moving forward on Jon and Jim? The award show for fans is back, Jim. Celebrate it. The iHeartRadio Music Awards coming back to Fox March 17th. And this Thursday at 6 a.m. Find out more info about the show and how you can vote for your favorite artist. Don't miss it Thursday, 6 a.m. right here on San Diego Sports 760. You say your alarm, Jim? He's not good. They could announce Roki Sasaki at 6 a.m. I'll be like, okay. All right. In the lawsuit, we haven't heard much about Peter's. It was very private, Peter's life, right? During his ownership of the Padres, we didn't hear a lot about his life. No, we knew his story. Yeah, he was a cancer survivor. Yeah, he had the interview with Kevin in the middle of that season. Yeah, 2023. In, I believe, Cincinnati. Yep. And that was the last time we heard from him publicly. Which was, of course, still months before he would pass. That was this summer. He passed. Desire was to have Melvin and Crowder both return. Did you know, though, I'm just seeing this on social media, that in the lawsuit that Sheel filed today in Texas, this is really sad. It's always sad when someone passes, especially in time we can do with anything but cancer survivor. But it's written in the lawsuit that although Peter battled beat cancer in 2015, his fatal infection was unrelated and unexpected, completely unexpected. Peter received a clean bill of health in the spring of 2023. Peter and Sheel were attempting to have another child. This is what she writes in the lawsuit. No one expected Peter to die in November of 2023, least of all Peter or Sheel. Yeah, so I take Sheel's word for that. No one knew Peter better than Sheel did. So, when I see that in the lawsuit, it's, again, hard pressed for me to believe that, at the beginning of 2023, everybody knew this is Peter's last run. I don't.
Right, and they have to win right now.
Yeah, I don't believe that. There's a lot of things that are murky and it's hard to take as fact. But look, if Sheel is saying that, I tend to believe Sheel there. I tend to believe a lot of things that Sheel has said. I am Team Sheel. I think a lot of people are. I think a lot of people view this as somebody trying to take control of the franchise away from people who don't have the same, I guess, care that Peter and Sheel would have for this team.
Yeah, I mean, listen, do you have to be careful sometimes with lawsuits? Yeah, because they are written with the intent of being quote unquote one-sided. Right. This is one side of a story. If there was a retort or a reply to a lawsuit, by the way, that plays out in court or is a settlement, then obviously the Seidler brothers would have a different version of some of what is being alleged here in this lawsuit. But there's no reason not to be truthful about Peter's health, for example.
Right. Why would you not be about that?
And I agree with what you've said a lot before, which is the truth is that following Peter's passing, there was I don't know if it was a 180, but the organizational trajectory changed. Now, I'm not saying that they would have won the World Series last year or that Juan Soto would be here. I don't know. Or that they'd be better off financially today than they are without him. I just don't believe that things haven't changed without Peter. I don't buy that. I think things have changed a lot without Peter, and maybe that's just part of life. I mean, owners change, people pass, teams are sold. And they did win without him in 2024. But I do believe that things would be different with the organization in terms of the stability. I think the organization would feel more stable if Peter was still here. And I just don't know what's going to happen now. Is she going to go away quietly and this is settled? Is she going to win this lawsuit and the brothers are pushed out? They're not going to go down without a fight. What I do know is this: it leads to instability. When this occurs, there's going to be pushback on the other side. It's going to play out in court or privately. It's about power. It's about money. It's about control. And it leaves maybe the Padres and their fans in limbo moving forward.
And what does this affect the most? It affects the on-field product. Because when Peter was here, it was very easy for AJ to go directly to Peter and say, look, I have a plan. Can we execute that? And a lot of times Peter said, yeah, we can do that. Where does AJ go now? Does he go to Jon? I mean, this lawsuit's out.
Sounds like John's not really interested.
Jon doesn't seem like a guy who really cares about this franchise.
Right, because Peter and AJ would talk about Roki Sasaki 2 years ago. They'd have these late night conversations. This is what AJ said at Peter's memorial. Is he calling up Jon Seidler to talk about Roki the same way he called up Peter Seidler?
Highly doubt it. That is where you're going to see, I think, in the immediate future, like where this is going to be affected the most is that AJ, who's he reporting to?
Mm-hmm.
Who is the person he's talking to? Who's in charge? Who is AJ's boss? Is it Jon? Because he's technically now the control person? Who is it? Who does he report to? Who does he go talk to about, hey, I have an idea about this trade or this player, but here's the financials for it. Can we execute that? Who's he going to talk to? I don't know his relationship with Jon or if he even has one. Maybe it's a good one. I don't know. But right now, as it said in Kevin's article, it feels like they're in like a holding pattern to figure out what's happening with this franchise before they can make any significant moves.
Yeah, like Kevin wrote that some people around the league in December said that the uncertainty over Padres ownership had all but paralyzed their ability to make moves.
Yeah.
And that's backed up with the fact that they've done nothing.
Right.
He's not just saying that. It's one thing to say that and they had traded for whomever or landed Roki Sasaki. He's saying that and they've done absolutely nothing. Now, Kevin also wrote within a pretty lengthy piece, truthfully, that's the front page right now of the UT, that this is a bit of a he said, she said. Right? There's some that believe that Peter's intentions were not to keep the franchise with his widow. There are others that believe it was always going to stay in the family, but with his brothers. This, to me, I don't know how simple this is, Jim, but I have to imagine that there was some type of document that would have laid out the future of the organization. But then again, Sheel wrote his passing was unexpected.
Yeah.
In 2023.
And we know Peter. He was just like a guy, like a regular guy. Like he just off the cuff. He would wear these
like jeans and a t-shirt like us.
Oversized jeans and a baggy sweatshirt.
Sure.
Looked like he just got out of bed. Right. And to see today the paper of, all the names in order of who would become the point person and in control of this franchise, to see Sheel on the top of that list and then see Jon, who is now in charge now, towards the bottom. It doesn't sit well with me. I don't like that at all. I just don't. Now, it's not like a legal document, but still, if that is Peter's handwriting, then that's a problem because Jon, who is now the control person, ain't anywhere close to the top of that list. And also, reading this from an article, it says here that in a lawsuit filed Monday, Sheel Seidler claims that Bob and Matt Seidler, two of Peter's brothers, breached their fiduciary duties as trustees of the Seidler Trust that controls the Padres. She claims that the two have, among other things, quote, I can't even say this word.
Irreconcilably?
Thank you. Conflicts of interest.
Conflicts?
I can't read. And conspired to sell trust assets to themselves at far below market prices as they, quote, schemed to solidify their control of the Padres.
This has opened up the possibility of a new segment called Jim Reads Sentences. We could just give him like children's books.
And have me read?
Just have you read.
It would be a problem. Well,
it really would. I mean, that's not easy to read like legal rambling.
It's very tiny. Like,
dude, that could be 100 font.
Irreconcilable.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't. Dude, there's some words I just can't say.
Try it again.
Irreconcilable.
That was good. Yeah. Yeah. Or like irreconcilably.
Irreconcilable.
And make that an open.
Irreconcilably conflicts of interest. Irreconcilable conflicts of interest. Irreconcilable conflicts of interest.
All right. Hour 3. We'll continue to react. We do have Aztec basketball tickets to give away for Wednesday night at Viejas Arena. Again, the bombshell lawsuit filed by Sheel Seidler today, Peter Seidler's widow suing Peter's brothers for control of the San Diego Padres. The writer of that article at Sportico will join us at 5 p.m. We'll continue to react. You can hit us up on the talkback mic, open the free iHeartRadio app, listen to San Diego Sports 760, tap the microphone icon, leave a 30-second talkback, hit us up on the text line, 70470, start it with the word team. That's 70470, start it with team. Or call us if you want to react. Who should control the Padres moving forward? 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. Jim reads words plus our reaction to this lawsuit next on Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. We'll start with the Aztecs after their win against Boise State. Next up, they'll take on Air Force this Wednesday at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen right here on San Diego Sports 760. The NFL playoffs, they are set. Lions and Chiefs, they're both the 1 seeds in the AFC and NFC. Games that can be heard here on the station in the playoffs. Rams will take on the Vikings on Monday night. Chargers will take on the Texans Saturday afternoon. And Sportico reported today, we've been talking about it, Sheel Seidler filed a lawsuit against Peter's brothers over control of the team. Good news, our holiday membership sale at Superstar Car Wash is extended. Last chance to get unlimited washes for just $20. Visit superstarcarwash.com or text JOLLY to 27800 now. Terms to apply.
It's Jon and Jim to warm up that drive home.
This is the opposite of stability when the future of the organization has a shadow hanging over it or a cloud hanging over it.
Dark cloud over it, yeah.
So I don't know if he was going to come here either way. And I'm not saying he's not coming here. I'm just saying this, to me, casts additional doubt that the Padres are capable of landing a player of Roki Sasaki's caliber.
99.99% of fans are going to be backing Sheel Seidler because of how much they beloved Peter.
Now, time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? This is hour 3 of Jon and Jim. We are here until 6 p.m. The author of the piece at Sportico will join us at 5 p.m. It was broken by Sportico that Sheel Seidler had filed a lawsuit in a Texas court, basically seeking control of the San Diego Padres. And this is not a good situation for any organization to be in. There's no way to paint this as a positive because it really isn't. I think you could argue that in the medium term or long term, it absolutely is beneficial that the organization ends up in the hands of who it should end up in the hands of. You don't want this thing being run improperly or run into the ground, even if it is at the expense of something in the short term. If they lose out on Roki, but have the right ownership group in place and the right chairperson, I think you can live with it. If they lose out on Roki and the thing is an abject failure for the next 5 years, as this continues, he said, she said, that's even worse. This needs to be figured out. We need to know who's in control of the franchise moving forward, regardless of what happens with Roki Sasaki. Like I remember a year or two ago when we talked about the Chargers, well past the move, the whole disaster between Dean Spanos and his sister, who controls what shares and stake, and it was such a bad look. Chargers have had this play out. Baltimore Orioles have had this play out. Now the Padres, I mean, 2 years ago, you would have said, oh my gosh, we're so fortunate this franchise is run by Peter Seidler. What a blessing. Look at what's played out with like the Clippers over the years or the Chargers over the years. Now look at what's going on with the San Diego Padres. That's so sad to see.
Yeah, because this affects the fans more than anything. It does, you know. The trajectory of this franchise going forward is up in the air right now.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any clue about which way this is going to go. I don't know if Sheel's going to win this lawsuit. I don't know if there's going to be a settlement. I doubt there's going to be a settlement because everything that I've seen from Sheel today, and she released a big statement as well. Let me pull that up. That kind of points me in the direction of like, there's no settling here. She is going to fight to make sure that she gets, control of this franchise. And in her statement today, she said this. You want to read it? You read it. I can't read it. It's too long.
Well, I'm not gonna read the whole thing. Just read
the last.
I think the last paragraph.
The last two paragraphs. For
the past 13 years, you, the Padres fans, the best and most passionate in baseball, and the San Diego community have shown such incredible kindness to me, our children, and of course, Peter. While the children and I feel Peter's absence every day, our collective devotion to this team is stronger than ever. Peter and I always planned one day to leave the team to the children. That remains my steadfast commitment. In the meantime, it is my intention to build upon the many recent successes, investing in both the short-term and long-term future of the franchise, and ensuring our dream of multiple championships, he writes, is fulfilled. I do not wish to litigate this matter in public, but rest assured I will do what it takes to protect my children, Peter's legacy, and this remarkable ball club. I look forward to a quick resolution so that we can together continue the work ahead. To me, it's a bit of an oy vey, is what it is. And, if his intention was to have it in his children's hands, that's another matter. Because his children obviously aren't of age to own a baseball team, but at one point may be. And that's a whole separate. You have the brothers, you have his widow, and then you have her children. That's a whole separate matter in the equation.
Like Peter mentioned, or it was being reported, and that he wanted to keep the Padres in the Seidler name for as long as possible.
But that's ambiguous because his brothers share the Seidler name. So does his wife or widow now.
Right.
And his children.
So you could use that as like, well, we have the last name of Seidler. We are brothers. We are blood. But like you have been harping on it, and I agree with you. If this isn't in actual documents and writing, once Peter passed away, how does it not go to Sheel? Or at least how does it not be put in her hands of like where to distribute the point person for this franchise? Like, how is she not involved?
That's the thing we don't know. Like, is there some document, a legal document or some type of will that points the organization somewhere once Peter passed?
And this ain't like easy where me and you are like, hey, who gets the computer or whatever?
Right.
You know what I mean?
This isn't, it's a great point.
It's
not mom's piano.
Right. This is a $2 billion franchise right now. And it's only going up.
Yeah, it's not going down. That doesn't happen in professional
Next
sports.
10 years, this thing could be close to $3 billion.
Be $3 billion, $4 billion. Yep.
So when you're dealing with B's, not, billions.
Yeah, it's crazy.
No one's going to just back down without a fight.
Mm-hmm.
The brothers are not going to back down without a fight here. They're just, I'd be hard pressed to feel that, to see that happening.
I agree. Is there a settlement? Is there a way to work together? I mean, that seems a little far-fetched too. With such a this lawsuit alleges racism from the brothers. You're going to settle?
Yeah, no.
You know what I mean? Like it seems like she kind of went all in, so to speak, which I understand. That's fully her right. And if she believes ultimately she should be in charge of this trust and this franchise, I mean, it's hard to kind of argue the merits of it. She was married to the man. Peter passed. So unless there's something that suggests she isn't now the rightful owner of the franchise, then of course you would represent yourself legally.
And it goes to the point of like, if you're a fan of this team, you want somebody that is the point person in charge of this franchise that truly does share Peter's vision and cares about the team and the fans like Peter did. I don't know if Jon's going to do that. From this lawsuit, it doesn't seem like it. Again, it's a lawsuit. It's what she is alleging. But I just always will look at actions over words. And even before today's lawsuit by Sheel, the actions of this franchise were not in the vision of Peter Seidler.
I agree with that. I think a couple of things here. I do agree, and we said it off the top of the show. We can offer our opinions, but I do agree that you need to be careful with lawsuits and litigation.
Yeah.
Because it's like being careful with like a grand jury indictment. You haven't heard from the defendant. When the prosecutor lays out their case, it was a big, bold cover-up. Okay, it's possible.
Right.
Let's hear from the defense. What Sheel Seidler is alleging is only her side of a story. Does not mean it's not truthful. Could be 100% truthful or may not be fully truthful. And the brothers may certainly have a leg to stand on. So with that being said, I also agree with everything you're saying, which is look at the actions of the organization over the last 15 months since his passing.
Yeah.
And all they do is lower payroll.
Yep.
So that is a factual statement. And that's unfortunate, I think, for Padres fans to watch play out. Fortunately, they won in 2024. But yeah, I think both things are true. It's like it's been hard to watch the organization and the way they have failed to spend like the way Peter Seidler did. So that's one side of it. And the other side of it is Sheel Seidler might have a leg to stand on. But again, this lawsuit and litigation is solely her side of the story. and we haven't yet heard from the brothers.
Now, I'd also say in every story, there is some truth in every story. Would you agree? Like,
yeah, I'm sure there's truth here. I agree. Yeah. I don't know to what extent.
Right.
Like, is it fully truthful,
or is it taking the truth and running with it to an extent of like, whoa, they're gonna move the franchise?
And she did use the word, or the lawsuit said perhaps they could perhaps move the franchise. She didn't say it was a guarantee or an inevitability or they will. But just putting that in there, you're gonna turn public, like you're gonna get the public's favor when you put like, hey, they might move the team. If I don't get control of this team, perhaps they would even consider moving it.
Well, I can tell you right now, just already looking at social media, and it's not like a barometer of everybody,
right?
But I mean, everybody's on Sheel's side.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
This is a one-sided
9 and 10,
like argument here. It is not even close. And Sheel has been very public of late on social media.
I've noticed that.
Like very out in the public. She has been to Petco Park more than I want to say anybody in that front office. Now, do we not front office, but
that ownership
group?
Yeah.
No, we don't fully know that.
Yeah.
But she has posted and she has been seen and she has been talking to fans and she has been making sure that the fans know that she hears them.
Yep.
I haven't seen any of that from Jon. Haven't seen any of that from Eric Casenda, obviously. But with that being said, like fans are going to be on her side as of right now until proven otherwise. Until something comes out that is different than this, people are going to be on Sheel's side.
I think they're just going to be on her side.
And I think regardless of what happens,
Peter had such universal approval
by the fan base
in the city of San Diego, even beyond the fan base, to like the civic pride and the work he did in the community, specifically with homeless.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard for the fan base to turn on Sheel Seidler. And oftentimes also, once a lawsuit like this is out, it's like you can't put the genie back in the bottle.
Nope.
The other side can defend themselves. It will never get the same level of press as the initial lawsuit or legal filing. Like this is at ESPN.com. This is a national news story. And the author that broke the story is going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. from Sportico. But it's going to be really, I find it very hard to believe that she won't have like the public behind her, so to speak. That doesn't mean she's going to win a lawsuit, by the way. Just because people think she should control the Padres doesn't mean she's going to win a lawsuit.
But I can tell you this, and I've said this a lot, like perception becomes reality a lot of times. And with fans out there right now, the perception is after this lawsuit, whoever's in charge of the Padres at this very moment shouldn't be. That's the perception from the lawsuit today.
Right.
And that the people that are running this franchise, Peter's brothers, Jon, are inevitably going to run this thing into the ground if Sheel does not become the point person and control the franchise. That's the perception out there. And sometimes it's very hard to get away from that perception unless something drastic happens. If Sheel doesn't win this lawsuit and remain status quo, Jon remains in place and Matt and whoever else is there as well, fans are going to be like, this is DEFCON 1. But until we find out from both sides, you're right. It's hard to know what the actual truth is. But today, what Sheel said, I think there's truth in there a lot, obviously, and it does not paint a very good picture of who's running this franchise right now.
No, I agree with that. And we'll continue to react on the other side. We do want to hear from you. Who should be running the Padres moving forward? 877-767-4760 or text us 70470. Start your message with the word team or hit us up on the talkback mic. Open the iHeartRadio app, search for San Diego Sports 760, tap the microphone icon and leave a 30-second talkback. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away later this hour. The author of the Sportico article that broke the story, Eben Novy-Williams. Eben, not Evan. Eben Novy-Williams will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim.
All right, AM radio keeps vital voices accessible. Congress can secure its future, but we need your help. Text AM to 52886 now to support keeping AM radio in cars. Tell your member of Congress to pass legislation now and keep AM radio in cars standard message and data rates. I remember we spent 3 months talking about Roki Sasaki. And then all of a sudden, Roki Sasaki is a lawsuit by Sheel Seidler. And you wonder if they could even be in the ballpark of landing. You really do wonder that. Again, in this lawsuit filed by Peter's widow, she says, or she writes in the lawsuit, the significance of Sheel's involvement is well documented. Padres tangible results of broad attention from the press. For instance, a recent column in the San Diego Union Tribune underscored Sheel's critical role in successfully recruiting players, offering the opinion that Sheel Seidler, the former chairman's wife, should be a part of the Padres team that tries to woo Roki Sasaki, given the culture that she and Peter created for the Padres. So is that as close as the Padres are going to get to Roki Sasaki this offseason? I mentioned it in the lawsuit. Still visiting.
I hope that this doesn't affect his decision, but at the same time, how would it not? I don't know. Do you think it does, or do you think it doesn't?
I am led to believe that it would, because we're all humans, and like when there's noise or when there's smoke, there's fire. And like you have an agent for a reason. The agent's going to weigh the pros and cons of an organization and put them in front of you.
Right.
These are the benefits of San Diego. These are the benefits of Los Angeles, so on and so forth. These are the cons of Los Angeles. These are the cons of San Diego. How could this not be considered? How could this not be a part of the story? Spending your next 6+ years somewhere, you want to know everything. And this is now part of everything.
And you'd be a part of a franchise that in this lawsuit claims the person in charge, A, knows nothing about the team, really doesn't really care much about the team, has no ties to the team. And the only thing is he has his last name of Seidler.
Mm-hmm.
And you got 2 other brothers there, seemingly, according to this lawsuit, pulling the strings behind the scenes with Jon in charge, allegedly.
Right.
Man, that's a tough place to be in if you're in this franchise trying to make this team better, because the only thing that should matter is winning a World Series. Like, that's it.
That's what we want to believe.
I know.
That's all that matters, but the truth is
it doesn't.
I mean, it may matter, but it's not the only thing that does matter.
No, I know. And Sheel is saying, like, for me and Peter's legacy, the legacy of Peter was only trying to win a World Series. And right now, the people that are running this franchise and in charge and the point person, they don't share the same vision that I do and Peter does.
Mm-hmm.
That's what she says essentially in this lawsuit. And it's hard pressed for me to not agree with her there, because I'm looking at the actions of this team and I'm like, yeah, I'm with you. Ever since the tragic passing of Peter, the payroll's going down every year. It's going down again. There's been no moves this offseason, not to AJ Preller's fault, I think, but you can't just slap a heart on the chest of a jersey and say you're honoring his legacy. Actions speak louder than words. You need to do something as a franchise to make sure that the fans are like, okay, I see the vision. Okay, it's great.
Yeah, the issue is, now that you put it that way, is like, this is, I mean, I don't know Peter. I didn't know Peter, but I can assume this is not what he would have wanted to play out.
No,
I mean, how
not
could
at all.
anyone that, again, saw the team as like this, like, I don't know, like nonprofit, actually, like he did it for the like civic pride of the city, and that the team essentially belonged to San Diegans, and now this is playing out in public for all of us to see, and it's not so pretty. It's not so pretty what's being alleged, and I just don't know what happens next. And I was already concerned about the Padres without this lawsuit. I already had concerns. I already knew the payroll was down. We already knew that they hadn't done anything this offseason. We already know how hard this division is. They already were probably underdogs to get Sasaki, even if they were one of 2 teams that were favorites. The Dodgers were probably already the favorite over San Diego. And it's like, you already had your concerns with the Padres, and now you really have concerns moving forward with the Padres. And
anytime there's litigation or there's a lawsuit, it can be painstakingly slow to play out. I mean, there's lawsuits that play out over years. Now, maybe it gets settled in a period of time that's shorter than that, or maybe this doesn't play out over years, but how does it not impact the direction of the Padres on field? I don't see how that's a possibility. Now, can they win in spite of it? Yeah. When we get there March 27th and there's 42,000 people there, does it impact them holding a 3-1 lead against San Francisco in the ninth inning? No. I mean, can they win games with lawsuits going on? Of course they can. But can they win games the way they're going to need to win games against franchises that put all of their effort into winning? I don't know the answer to that.
This ain't just any other lawsuit thrown out there.
Right.
This is a lawsuit involving the widow of the most beloved owner in this city's history.
Right.
Alleging that his brothers are taking the franchise and essentially not running it into the ground right now, but like going to be eventually running it into the ground.
Mm-hmm.
That's a just massive story.
Yeah.
And it's somebody's widow, somebody's wife, a widow of Peter, who was beloved here. That's why it's different.
Yeah.
It's totally different in that sense.
Right. This isn't like Dean Spanos' wife.
No.
Right. This isn't who was the former owner of the Clippers.
Donald Sterling.
Yeah, this isn't someone in like the Sterling. Like the names are different. Like their
Yeah.
credibility within the franchise or city.
Right.
It's completely different.
Yeah. Obviously, the Padres didn't win a championship while Peter was, the owner of this team. But you'd be hard pressed to ask 100 Padres fans or 100 sports fans in this town who's the best owner in your lifetime here in San Diego. Hard pressed to find them say anything other than Peter Seidler.
So Dennis Lin and Evan Drellich have written an article on this at The Athletic that we're going to comb through over the next few minutes and react to on the other side. By the way, Kevin Acey at the UT continues to update his article on the lawsuit that could rock the San Diego Padres. I think those were his words earlier today. So, I mean, this is playing out in real time. Again, Sportico is the first to report on it. The author of that article is going to join us coming up at 5 p.m. So there is a lot to react to over the next 90 minutes, and we will be here with you on Jon and Jim. We'll be with you tonight, by the way, on the wrap-up show as well. We'll have a special edition of the wrap-up show for you tonight at 9:30 p.m. But we'll continue to react on the other side, including to Dennis Lin today in The Athletic. We'll give away Aztec basketball tickets coming up later this hour. We're here until 6. It's Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. We'll start with the Aztecs after their big win over Boise State this past weekend. They'll take on Air Force Wednesday night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. NFL playoffs are set. Lions and Chiefs, they are the 1 seeds. Rams will take on the Vikings on Monday night. Chargers will take on the Texans on Saturday afternoon. Both games can be heard right here on San Diego Sports 760. And Sportico reported today that Sheel Seidler, the widow of Peter, filed a lawsuit against Peter's brothers over control of the team. We'll continue to talk about that bombshell report coming up next. Good news, our holiday membership sale at Superstar Car Wash is extended. Last chance to get unlimited washes for just $20. Visit superstarcarwash.com or text JOLLY to 27800 now. Terms do apply.
What is next for the San Diego Padres organization? How does this play out? Dennis Lynn writing in this article that among the possibilities,
Sale could be possible if the two sides can't come to some type of resolution. That to me would be really a worst case scenario. I mean, Peter Seidler had said in his own words, he envisioned the franchise staying in the Seidler name for generations. He's been gone for over a year or only a year. The last thing he would want is for the team to be sold. So there's going to have to be some type of resolution. But I would say this too. If there was a little window in time that we all lived through that was like this kind of special, unique time, the Juan Soto trade, the elevated payroll, the relevancy of the San Diego Padres, are those days numbered moving forward?
Look, when it comes to a sale of the franchise, if it went to the right person, and I've talked about this, like somebody with deep pockets that cares about winning, cares about, bringing a championship to San Diego, I'm not opposed to it. Like, I'm not sitting here saying no matter what, this thing has to stay in the side of their name. I know that was Peter's wishes. I understand that. And I respect that. But at the same time, the train don't stop for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Like sports, they don't stop for anybody.
Yeah, but you make a good point. It's an if, but what if the deep-pocketed future owner is like what Sheel's alleging with the Seidler brothers? They don't have ties to San Diego. They don't have what's best for the organization in mind. They do have an interest in relocation or lowering payroll.
Well, even if this person hypothetically didn't have any ties to San Diego, it wouldn't bother me. And it shouldn't bother the fans as long as that person
commits to San Diego.
Exactly. Commits to San Diego, wants to win, spends money, resources, because they're in a division. Like, if you don't try to keep up, you're going to be left behind like the Rockies are right now. So
how are we even? Nobody has ever spent any time since the Chargers left ever entertaining for 1 second the idea of the San Diego Padres ever going anywhere. But I didn't write what Sheel Seidler wrote in the lawsuit, which is perhaps the brothers would move the team or relocate the team. So I don't think there's a world in which the Padres aren't the San Diego Padres for generations. I really don't. I think Petco's an absolute jewel. I think the fan base is incredible. I think that would be truly one of the dumbest things ever. But then again, we are living in a world where dumb things happen and teams do relocate. But I mean, what are we even talking about? That's the problem with something like this. When it plays out publicly, you start to question, is there any world where Roki Sasaki is coming here? Is there a world where the team is sold? Could the brothers perhaps move the team? I mean, what are we even talking about? And the reason we're talking about it is because, like you said, your mind races to the worst possible point.
Yeah. When
you see a lawsuit released publicly.
Yeah, because this can go down so many different paths. I really do not agree with somebody that thinks that this is just a nothing burger. Like, you'd have to be out of your mind to think this is a bunch of nothing. This affects a lot. And if you don't believe me, just look at what the Padres have done this offseason. They've done nothing. You can't tell me that this has not affected the ability for AJ Preller to go out and make moves.
There's been a statement from the spokesperson for the Peter Seidler Trust regarding the lawsuit brought today by
Where are
Sheel
you seeing this stuff?
Seidler.
I'm not seeing anything.
Kevin Acey, man.
Oh, sorry.
You should follow him.
Oh, I really should.
The complaint filed by Sheel Seidler, the widow of Peter Seidler, is entirely without merit. Peter had a clear estate plan. The plan specifically named 3 of his 9 siblings, with whom he had worked closely for many decades, as successor trustees of his trust, and Peter himself prohibited Sheel from ever serving as trustee. The trustee is exclusively responsible for designating the San Diego Padres' next control person. In 2020, in connection with Peter's appointment as control person, Sheel agreed in a sworn document that she had no right to be or to designate the control person, and that she would not interfere with the designated control person. She also stated in May 2024 that Jon Seidler, Peter's eldest brother, would be the best control person for the Padres. The Padres have already filed an application with Major League Baseball to appoint Jon. And now, quote, a lifelong baseball fan, seasoned business executive, and current minority owner, Jon has the right experience and shares Peter's vision for the Padres. Ensure there is a consistently competitive team on the field and a best-in-class fan experience with the goal of bringing championship caliber baseball, not a championship, by the way, to San Diego. Planning for the 2025 season is well underway, and we look forward to pursuing the franchise's first World Series title. So the trust, which is not the Padres, but it's Peter Seidler's trust, and we're getting nuanced here, but plays a significant role here because it's controlling his money, has basically disputed Sheel Seidler's litigation very strongly.
This is going to get ugly.
It's going to get ugly.
This is going to get ugly.
Unless this is just thrown out and doesn't have merit and can be fought legally with these documents that the Seidler Trust have that express who will be in control of the Padres moving forward. You know, I can kick, scream and yell, but at the end of the day, what do the courts think? What do the documents say? What does the judge believe?
So again, like, social media is not a full barometer of what all fans think, but I'm just reading all the comments right now on the ACP on that statement. Every single one of them is Team Sheel, Team Sheel,
Yeah,
Team
definitely.
Sheel, Team
Of
Sheel.
course.
Of course it is. And like I said, perception becomes reality. Like, you read that, the first thing that came out this morning was from Sheel, the lawsuit.
Yep.
People read that, they saw it, understandably freaked out. They are going to side with Sheel every day of the week because she is the widow of the most beloved owner in franchise history.
Sure.
And really all sports in San Diego.
Mhm.
So going against Sheel would essentially be going against Peter. And to see these things and how I've been talking about the actions of the franchise are speaking louder than words. You come out with that PR piece about how we're going to ensure Peter's legacy, but you haven't done anything to make your team better. It's pretty easy for a fan to look at that and be like, yeah, I don't believe you. Even if they are telling the truth, it's hard to believe when the actions of the franchise right now, after Peter's passing for the last 2 years, have been cut as much payroll as possible. And oh, by the way, this offseason, we've made 0 moves.
I agree with that. But I also remember we started the show within the first 15 minutes, Jim. We said, are you telling me when Peter passed, there wasn't some clear plan laid out legally in a document? And according to this Peter Seidler Trust spokesman, Peter had a clear estate plan that specifically named some of his siblings that Sheel was aware of and had agreed to. My point is this, Jim. If there are documents that support that claim from the trust, then there are documents that support that claim. And it goes to a court and a judge makes a determination or a decision. Yeah, that's kind of my point. I don't know what's accurate. Sheel has her litigation. The Seidler Trust has their statement.
Right.
I know Peter wouldn't want this to be happening.
No, this is the last thing he wants. His wife of over a decade plus fighting with
his trust.
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah.
And again, these are just words that are being said in regards to Jon Seidler. But bro, until your actions meet these words, no one's going to be buying this, dude.
I agree with that.
Like, you can't go around and saying these things.
Well, this is the trust's statement, which is even weirder.
Well, also, it's saying things reflecting on Jon.
Yeah, that's right.
And if Jon is now the point man for the foreseeable future and nothing changes, your actions better meet your word, or your words better meet your actions. Because if they don't, you're going to lose this fan base. And then if you become a team that doesn't compete anymore and doesn't spend and doesn't do what's necessary to compete, you've lost.
Yeah, this is honestly fascinating and the last thing I expected on the first Monday of the new year. Like, this is the start of 2025, and we're left with this he said, she said infighting for power and control of the San Diego Padres. Will continue to react. Plus, the writer of the article that broke the news at Sportico will join us at 5 p.m. Eben Novy-Williams. He broke the story. Will join us coming up at 5 p.m. Do not go anywhere. We have Aztec basketball tickets to give away. We'll do that coming up next. It's Jon and Jim. All right, hey guys, it is Schaefer, and stop letting high interest debt weigh you down. You can pay it all off in days thanks to Loan Pronto's new Rapid Equity Loan. Listen up, homeowners. Imagine a completely hassle-free way to get cash out of your home's equity with no appraisals, paperwork, or waiting. Loan Pronto's all-new Rapid Equity Loan uses AI-driven technology to get you approved for cash out in as little as 1 day. And one client got $100,000 approved in under 24 hours. Wiped out their debt, launched a home improvement project, is now saving over $1,000 a month. Instant approvals, low fixed rates, fast transfers, get cash to consolidate all your debt and get a fresh start for this new year. Call Loan Pronto now and see how much you qualify for. Imagine this time next week, you could be credit card debt free. Don't wait, get your cash fast. Call 619-207-4336 or loanpronto.com. That's 619-207-4336. or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781. On approved credit, NMLSconsumeraccess.org. All right, with you until 6 p.m. The author of the article at Sportico that broke the news on the lawsuit filed by Sheel Seidler, he will join us coming up at 5 p.m., so don't go anywhere. Join us in about 10 or so minutes. We're reacting to the news that has been the news of the day in San Diego. Front page right now at the Union Tribune. Padres family fight. Seidler's widow, that's Sheel, sues Peter's brothers for control of the team, and that's where we are right now. And again, you heard that Peter Seidler's trust has refuted the claims of his widow. We just read you that statement, and like you just put on social media, and I think I've said here on Jon and Jim, this thing has a chance to get pretty messy.
Yep. It's two different stories, and they're like one is completely different from the other. One's claiming one thing, the other's claiming one thing. There's not like, it doesn't feel like there's a middle ground here that's close. And I will continue to say it. The actions of this franchise speak louder than the words they are telling the fan base. Plain and simple. And if the actions of this franchise at this very moment in time, with Jon Seidler, the point person of this team right now, are not making any moves this offseason, that's a reflection on Jon as the owner and the point man of this team. And the words that they're saying about how we want to keep Peter's legacy alive, like, you're not doing that by what's happening right now with this franchise.
Yeah, and again, the collateral damage is you, our listeners.
Exactly.
People that go to these games, people that watch them on Padres.tv, that listen, that interact, that support, that attend. I mean, that's the shame in all of this. I mean, we are months away from them being a brief favorite to win the World Series. We woke up with a 2-1 series lead over the Dodgers, and the Padres, according to Vegas, were favored to win the World Series for that brief moment. They were at home with a 2-1 series lead, and Dylan Cease on the mound, a bullpen day for the Dodgers. And everything has unraveled since.
Like, if you told me this offseason they re-signed Jurickson Profar, they gave a long-term contract to Michael King, and then they traded Dylan Cease, and then they're now waiting on Roki, and they made another trade for like a pitcher that makes nothing. I could buy what they're saying. Like, okay, what they're doing, okay, long-term contract for a pitcher that makes a lot of sense. You sign a guy that was a huge part of your team last year in Jurickson Profar, a guy that I think the Padres will want to have back at the right price. And you had to trade Dylan Cease because you know you're not going to re-sign him, because that thing's over $200+ million right there.
Right.
And you brought some pieces back for him, and you're like, you're doing stuff. You could still do all that stuff while waiting for Roki's decision.
Sure.
But you've done nothing. And so it's really hard for me to sit here and read these comments from the franchise right now. Even weeks ago, when Kevin released that article that Jon was becoming the point person, I said it back then, dude, I'm not taking this right now until you show me that you're going to actually, do things in Peter's name that you are just saying out there all the time. You are using his name and not doing anything action-wise to back it up.
Here's the thing, though. Like, we don't even know what they're going to do. If it stays the way it is, Jon Seidler, the control person, his siblings representing ownership, we don't even know. You know what I mean? Like, Kevin wrote today at the end of this article that payroll is actually expected to go up, although not significantly.
Okay.
And again, what they did post-Peter was win 93 games, their most wins since 1998. I don't know if it's sustainable or not, but like it's hard for me to cast too much judgment one way or the other. Like, what if Jon Seidler is able to run an organization that is successful? What if he's not? That's a big difference. Like, he's been in fact, Major League Baseball hasn't even named him chairperson, and they can between now and the start of spring training. That's the expectation. He's not currently even chairperson. He doesn't represent ownership. He has no control.
Don't you find it, though, a little weird how somebody who we've never heard of before being involved with the Padres is now the point person of this team?
As opposed to maybe someone we had, Tom. Yes, but what do we know about Tom Seidler compared to Jon Seidler? Just
you're right.
You know what I mean? We don't really know in terms of their ability to point this team in a direction where they can win.
But wouldn't you think that somebody who we've seen before, or at least maybe like was close to Peter, as far as like when we saw Peter, we saw this person.
Right.
Have we ever seen Jon before? Do we even know what Jon looks like?
No, and that was always our knock on Eric Katsenda.
But isn't it just a little weird?
I guess, although some people are private and others aren't. I mean, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, if I don't know is my point.
Like
I just don't know. I didn't know Peter Seidler before Peter Seidler came to us representing a portion of ownership whenever it was.
Like, I bet, like, if we asked people in that organization,
right,
after Peter's passing, who do you think will be the next point person of this franchise? Do you think you would have heard a lot of them say Jon?
I don't know, because I don't know the particulars.
That's the question I'm asking, though. Like, if I went to ask the higher ups down at Petco,
well, like, did AJ know?
Did AJ?
Did Eric?
Did Eric?
Did Eric Grubner? I would guess the answer would be yeah.
They thought it was going to be Jon.
That would be my guess.
Like, hey, here's like 3 names: Tom, Jon, Sheel. Who do you think is going to be in charge?
My guess is they knew. I think because AJ Preller had such a good relationship with Peter, he probably was aware of the plan of Peter's moving forward. That's my guess.
Well, why didn't we hear anything about Jon's name before he was announced the point person? Is my question.
Well, I don't know, but I do read what Kevin wrote, which was like what Sheel is alleging, and I'm paraphrasing, isn't necessarily what was being said internally with the team in 2023.
And whatever Peter wanted should happen. So yeah, if it comes out that there's legal documents that says Jon,
right?
Okay. If there's legal documents that comes out and says Sheel, then it's Sheel.
Mm-hmm.
There's legal documents that doesn't, I guess, have anybody. I don't know how that would work, but my point is, like, whatever Peter wanted should happen. And we are now going against the he said, she said. And it's going to get ugly, and unfortunately. And
yeah, I think it has.
The collateral damage of this, like you said, is the fans. And that's just really, like, it's such a pivotal point in your franchise on the field with contracts and age of players and, timelines. Like, this is the worst time for this to happen.
Yeah, it's not ideal. There's no good time. It's not ideal. We'll catch up with the author of the article that broke the news of the lawsuit at Sportico, Eben Novy-Williams. Broke this story earlier today at Sportico. It has become a huge sports story and a massive overall story in the city of San Diego. He'll join us next on Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. We'll start with the Aztecs. They beat Boise State over the weekend, 76-68. They now take on Air Force this Wednesday at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. The NFL playoffs, they are set. The Lions and Chiefs are the 1 seeds. The Rams will take on the Vikings on Monday night. Chargers will take on the Texans Saturday afternoon. Both games can be heard right here on San Diego Sports 760. And Sportico reported today that Sheel Seidler, widow of Peter, filed a lawsuit against Peter's brothers over control of the team. Good news, our holiday membership sale at Superstar Car Wash is extended. Last chance to get unlimited washes for just $20. Visit superstarcarwash.com or text JOLLY to 27800 now. Terms do apply.
It's Jon and Jim to warm up that drive home.
This is the opposite of stability when the future of the organization has a shadow hanging over it or a cloud hanging over it.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was going to come here either way. And I'm not saying he's not coming here. I'm just saying this, to me, casts additional doubt that the Padres are capable of landing a player of Roki Sasaki's caliber.
99.99% of fans are going to be backing Sheel Seidler because of how much they beloved Peter.
Now, time for Jon and Jim.
All right, San Diego, Southern California, what's going on? Final hour of Jon and Jim. Great to connect with the author of this story at Sportico, Eben Novy-Williams, who broke this story of the lawsuit that was filed today in Texas by Sheel Seidler, the widow of Peter Seidler, looking for control of the Padres franchise from the Seidler brothers. And Eben, we appreciate you joining us here in San Diego on Jon and Jim. So I guess I would start with this. What happens next? The lawsuit's been filed. Where do we go from here? And Happy New Year, and thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I mean, the first thing that we're going to hear next is at some point, I assume we'll hear Matt and Bob Seidler's side of things. There are a lot of allegations in here from Peter's widow. Some of them are quite ugly about the two of them, about other family members. And I would imagine at some point a lawyer of theirs is going to file something that is going to give us their side of things. I would underscore that this is not, shockingly, it's not that uncommon to see, particularly for these billion-dollar sports assets, to see family members following the death of a control owner at odds and disagreeing about what that person wanted and how a team like the Padres can continue and under whose direction.
How much of a case does Sheel have here with her lawsuit, in your opinion?
Yeah, I mean, she's making a lot of interesting claims about not just particularly her situation. So she claims that she is the sole beneficiary of the trust that has the control stake of the Padres. Both two of her brothers, first I believe it was Bob and now Matt, were executive trustees of that. And she is claiming essentially that they are not following in the wishes of what Peter Seidler wanted. But a lot of this, I think, is going to come down to kind of the estate planning law and what exactly the trust says, what exactly the trust gives power to the trustees as opposed to the beneficiary. And I think a lot of it also, and I'm sure you guys saw in there's a handwritten note from Peter talking about who was going to control this team after. I think some of it is going to partially hinge on what she can prove were Peter's wishes before he died.
Yeah, my next question was going to be about that handwritten note. I mean, there's a lot of handwritten notes are we don't know when they're written, don't know who wrote them, but still at the same time, when you have this, if it truly is Peter's handwriting, how much is that going to, play into this, or how much can that affect things? Or is that just as I said, it's just a handwritten note. You can't really do much with that.
I think the more that she can prove that Peter's wishes were that she be the person that owned this team, be the person that made decisions about this team, be the person that managed this team, and that eventually it would go on to their children. The more that they can prove that, I think the stronger their case is. And again, I say that without knowing what Bob and Matt Seidler and if other brothers or family members get involved, what they're going to claim in the reverse. But I think a lot of this is going to claim on how direct she can tie the line between what Peter wanted before he died and what is happening right now.
Eben Novy-Williams, Sportico, with us right now on Jon and Jim. In your opinion, what type of impact could this have on an organization as it deals with this?
It's tough. And if I think back right now, some of the biggest major sports teams that have had kind of ownership infighting like this after someone died, a lot of those teams end up getting sold. The Baltimore Orioles, I think, are a really good example. The Angelos brothers, this deal was struck before Peter died, but there was a lot of struggle within the Angelos family about what the ownership structure was going to look like when Peter Angelos was gone. That team obviously ended up selling to a group led by David Rubenstein. Another big one from the past few years, the Denver Broncos. When Pat Bowlen died almost a decade ago now, his kids could not figure out who was going to run the team, how they were going to consolidate ownership in a way that would make the NFL okay with keeping it in the family. And as a result, that team sold to Rob Walton for $4+ billion. So oftentimes when we see fights like this among family members, the end result is the team gets sold. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen here. Every situation is different, but very often when you see arguments like this among family members, the end result is that everybody goes their separate ways, and they go their separate ways with a pretty big financial check.
So Sportico reported today that the team is valued at over $2 billion. What do you think this franchise could sell for if this, happened, like you said, if it goes down that path? What do you think this franchise could sell for?
I would use that number as a pretty good barometer right now. Those numbers are done. My colleague Kurt does those, and he does them with pretty thorough understanding of each team's financial situation. The Orioles, again, sold for a pretty high number, which is the most recent MLB control sale. So use that as a basic barometer for what we think other teams in kind of the middle of the pack in terms of valuation in Major League Baseball might. And $2 billion, the Seidlers bought this team in 2012, their control stake, and they paid $800 million for it. So it's already more than doubled in value in the time that they've had it. Very frequently for ownership groups, the sports team is not only the most valuable asset they have, it's the fastest appreciating asset they have. It's the coolest asset that they have. It's the one they all want to be a part of. And again, that makes it harder and harder when it comes time to decide without the control, the scion, the longtime control owner in the picture, who it is who's going to make those decisions.
Eben Novy-Williams, Sportico with us right now. Jon and Jim, San Diego Sports 760. Knowing what we know now that this lawsuit's been filed, the Padres, I don't know if you've paid close attention, but they haven't spent a penny all offseason. And their payroll from 2023, when Peter was representing ownership, to today has gone down precipitously. How much of their lack of spending, in your estimation, has to do with what's going on behind the scenes?
I don't know the answer to that for sure, but I can guess that this is probably some of the details that she's laying out here have probably something to do with changes in direction. According to Sheel Seidler, she has said that for much of the later end of Peter's ownership of the Padres, she was very involved. She was consulting him on managerial hires. She was consulting on free agents. She says that she was interfacing with team agents. She was attending MLB owners meetings. Now she says the Seidler brothers have essentially told her she's not welcome and have told employees that they're not to trust her or take advice from her or consult with her. So yes, if what she's saying is right, there has probably been a significant shift in the way the team is operated, just because not just Peter gone, but Peter and Sheel are gone. So I don't know for sure, obviously, what free agency would have looked like or what some decisions that the Padres might have made differently. But according to her allegations here, there has been a more significant break in the philosophy of team ownership and management, more so than just Peter passing away, but also her leaving as part of the decision tree as well.
Reading through the lawsuit, what stuck out to you the most about the lawsuit here from Sheel?
I mean, part of it, the things that I think maybe interest me is maybe more of the mundane stuff. She's making some allegations about financial fraud and fiduciary duties that don't really have to do with the Padres, but some dealings that the Seidler brothers were doing with other assets of the Seidler Trust. There's some details in there. I just mentioned one of them about her not being able to use the owner's box anymore. There's definitely some petty stuff in there that I think obviously hints at there being some bad blood probably in both directions here. So yeah, I think those are two that jumped out to me. It seems pretty clear to me, and kind of reading between the lines, and also in some of the things that Sheel said, she's fighting for her family here. And when I say family, I think she's talking about her children. I think what she thinks is if she can get control of this team, that means her kids are going to be the ones that take over after her. And she clearly feels like that is not just what Peter wanted, but also is the right thing for the succession there. So yeah, I think in some ways she's definitely fighting for her own role here, but in the back of her mind, I'm sure she is thinking very intently that if she takes over, if she is the control person, it makes it very easy to make her children the control people or one of her kids the control person when she's ready to hand that over as well.
Really fascinating. Eben Novy-Williams with us from Sportico. He broke this story on the lawsuit today at Sportico with us on Jon and Jim. How long can this take to get resolved? Is this months, years? What's typical here?
Yeah, I mean, this is the American judicial system, so nothing would surprise me. The Pat Bowlen with the Denver Broncos, which I mentioned earlier, that took 7 or 8 years off the top of my head. It was a long process between when Pat died and when that team was sold. All of the kind of back and forth between the Bowlen children and the trustees, it was years and years and years. So maybe the answer is this could be months if things are really shocking or go really easily. But if there's a legal fight here, if the other Seidler brothers decide they have something else to say and really want the courts to decide this, yeah, you could be looking at years as an understatement, probably 5 years maybe in terms of when a final adjudication of this happens.
5 years.
Oh,
That's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, nice and easy. Yeah.
I mean, this really was, Eben, and we appreciate you for joining. I mean, this was shocking to us today because, you know, the Seidler name in San Diego is one of such prominence, and Peter is regarded as good of an owner as maybe there's ever been in the history of professional sports in San Diego. Now, we all know he's gone. But for there to be this lawsuit and this infighting, I don't think it was necessarily expected from the outside. And now that this is playing out in the public eye, it's going to get potentially messy. Certainly for Padres fans who have been really good. I mean, Padres have drawn incredible numbers, and for this to be on the other side of Peter Seidler's passing is just, I think, unfortunate for a lot of people.
Totally, and a team that has spent not above its means, but spent more than a lot of other teams in its situation have been willing to spend in the past to get to the level of some of the highest spending teams in the league. And baseball, as you guys well know, it's a sport where if you're not willing to spend that, you're probably not going to win.
Right.
This is not the NFL where everybody pays the same amount of money and there's tremendous parity, and you could be good one year and bad the next. If your Major League Baseball team is not willing to spend a lot of money to get players, your Major League Baseball team is probably not going to win. So definitely more so in baseball than almost any other sport, at least here in the U.S. But yeah, the direct tie between financial willingness to spend and also success is quite direct.
No doubt. Eben, appreciate it. Happy New Year, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Same to you.
All right, great stuff. Eben Novy-Williams. That was fascinating. He said more often than not, it ends in a sale. And he said that the way it plays out in courts can take close to a decade.
That's what stuck out to me the most. When he mentioned, usually when there's infighting with a family over the control of a team, more likely than not, it ends with a sale. And it might not be one of those things that happens quickly either. Like, this could take a while. And he mentioned the Bolins, right? Like, 5 years is a long time.
Yeah.
5 years of this, of back and forth and what's going on. Like, it feels like the news that dropped today. And again, like I said at the start of the show, like my mind just automatically goes to worst case scenario. I hope it's not that, but if it is, we could be looking at like the end of the Seidler name owning this franchise. Eventually this thing could get sold.
And to that point, do you know how many of those years that the Broncos made the postseason during that?
It would be
back and forth.
It would be less than one, John.
They didn't make the postseason for 9 years, the Denver Broncos, until right now. Yeah. And 7 of those 9 years was during the legal back and forth.
That team was a disaster.
And has been a disaster until basically right now. All right, on the other side, continued reaction to this bombshell filing by Sheel Seidler today as she looks to take control of the San Diego Padres from Peter Seidler's brothers. It's Jon and Jim. All right, John and Jim back with you. If you have not downloaded the all-new iHeartRadio app, now is the time. Presets and more. The number one audio app in America has gotten better. Download the all-new iHeartRadio app and listen to John and Jim on the free all-new iHeartRadio app. Well, we spent 4 hours talking about the lawsuit. There was also an article from Jeff Passan today at ESPN Plus where he said the teams are calling on both Luis Arraez and Dylan Cease and have not been rebuffed. And the Yankees are reportedly one of the teams that has called on Arraez. But according to Jeff Passan at ESPN.com, both Luis Arraez and Dylan Cease have been called upon. The Padres have not entirely said no. And then MLB trade rumors following up and saying the Yankees are one of those teams.
Did you see what John Heyman put out?
What did Heyman put out?
That Yankees don't see Arraez as a fit.
So Arraez to the Yankees. Or is that Nightingale?
Well, no, that means Preller is putting that out there to try to maybe drive up a price and sweeten it there. And the Yankees are like, whoa, you don't want Arraez.
Can this organization do anything, though? We know now about this legal filing from Sheel Seidler. We know that Kevin Acee wrote that's basically paralyzed the organization, but you got to be able to conduct business.
You have to build a team.
It's the business of winning. Nobody's going to accept the fact that you took a step back because there was some lawsuit filed. So even if it means getting rid of pieces, if it means getting rid of Dylan Cease or Luis Arraez or whomever, can we get back to business? That's what they're going to be at. Since they lost to the Dodgers, we have not heard from them.
No, we've
in
nothing.
Any manner. I mean, they signed Tyler Wade.
Besides the winter meetings when Preller spoke, but
right.
Other than that, there has been no action, nothing. So again, I will sit here and say actions speak louder than words, and I just am very cautious going forward here because they have to build a team. They have to build a competitive team. And they can't just say, oh, yeah, we're not going to have a left fielder. We're not going to have this. We're not going to have that. And, I mean, I still think once the Roki news drops, then they will start making some moves. If Roki does somehow pick here.
Against all odds today.
At this moment in time,
right.
I mean, I would buy an AJ Preller jersey if they got Roki Sasaki.
Right. Make him owner.
Whenever he decides where he's going to go, then I think we're going to start seeing some action from this team. You have to. You have to see some resolve with what they're going to do soon because spring training is about a little over a month away.
You do wonder, I'd love to see the group text chains going on between Padres players or even executives. What is this? When you have something that's unstable, what does this mean for AJ Preller's long-term future in San Diego? What does this mean for Eric Grupner? When you have questions, that's the opposite of being stable. And when people are wondering what's going to happen next, is this team going to be sold? Is this going to end up in court? What's going to happen? When will the other shoe drop? That's just not good for anyone. It's not good for Manny Machado. It's not good for AJ Preller. It's not good for Eric Grupner. It's not good for our listeners, right? It's not good.
No, because the worst thing in professional sports is when your favorite team has uncertainty in the front office and as the ownership group.
Right.
You never ever see a team with uncertainty as for when it comes to who's the owner of this team go on to win a championship.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. Imagine it's just a crazy world. The Padres win a World Series. Who's going to be at the podium? Who's holding up that trophy? Is it John? Is it Sheel? Is it who is it?
Yeah, as of now, who even knows? Yeah,
who's going to be the person up there?
Yeah, like what was mentioned from the writer at Sportico, it's getting a little petty maybe with Sheel will have access to this or won't have access to a suite. I mean, we're going to keep the widow of Peter Seidler away from the organization. The whole thing doesn't make a lot of sense, although it does, because when you start talking about this much money and this much power and this much influence, of course, people are going to fight tooth and nail for it both ways. And I don't think either side is going to go away quietly.
And I truly feel that if this is not going to get resolved in a timely manner, which highly unlikely at this point in time,
right?
But if it's not, there has to be a resolution. And if that resolution is selling the team, then so be it. would you rather have them sell the team this year or go through litigation and this lawsuit for 7 years?
Right.
You know
No,
what I mean?
you'd prefer to have them sell the team. I go back to like Frank McCourt with the Dodgers. I don't fully remember the way it played out, but it was a disaster. And there was the divorce, and then there was the legal selling or sale of the team that played out over the course of a couple of years. Now, the Dodgers were way better off for it on the other side, but it's also the LA Dodgers, and they're.
But the same thing, like the Frank McCourt era, right? Like you just mentioned. And then coming out on the other side now, being owned by the Guggenheims.
Yeah, is that going to happen here, though?
But look what the Mets. Mets on the other side. Now it's obviously
New York,
LA,
and LA.
New York. I get it. But I'm just
I
I'm
see what you're saying. No, you're right. I mean, if you could snap your fingers and have the right ownership group with deep pockets,
like
they could point you in the right direction. Yeah.
If you could right now, off the top of my head,
like Joe Tsai.
Yeah, Joe Tsai or a group, like a group together with I'm blanking on his name. Brent, GM of the Cubs, former GM of the Cubs.
Theo Epstein?
No, Theo Epstein.
Yeah.
A group led by Theo Epstein comes in here. You know
I'm all for it. The only issue there is that that's also going to play out over time.
I know, but if right now I gave you a choice, deal with this for the next 5 to 10 years,
or have that happen in 12 months.
Right.
Yeah, I would take that.
I'm picking that. I really am.
But is that going to exist?
Probably not. I'm just giving you. I'm just throwing out options.
Maybe it is. I mean, the Padres at the end of the day, we know about their TV issues. We know they're in a quote unquote smaller market. You know, is someone just going to step in with this white horse and buy this franchise for $3 billion and then invest the way it needs to be invested in for them to win at a high level?
Hey, look, all it takes is one person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or one, or a group of people.
I guess again, the difference between something like the Rams or the Dodgers or the Mets is the Rams, Dodgers, Mets have the revenues to support that level
the team doesn't
of
even
spend.
The team doesn't even have a TV contract.
That's the thing. So, like, is someone going to spend $3 billion then invest $3 billion on the other side? All right, we'll continue to react. We're here until 6 p.m. We will have Jim's back page coming up in about 20 minutes. It's Jon and Jim.
All right, this update is brought to you by Superstar Car Wash. We'll start with the Aztecs. Their big win over Boise State this weekend, 76-68. Next up, they take on Air Force this Wednesday night at Viejas Arena, 7:30 tip time. You can listen to that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. NFL playoffs are set. Lions and Chiefs, they are the 1 seeds in the AFC and the NFC. Games that you can hear right here on the station. Rams will take on the Vikings on Monday night. Chargers will take on the Texans Saturday afternoon. We've been talking about it all day. Sportico reported this morning that Sheel Seidler, widow of Peter Seidler, filed a lawsuit against Peter's brothers over control of the team. Good news, our holiday membership sale is extended. Last chance to get unlimited washes for just $20. Visit superstarcarwash.com or text JOLLY to 27800 now. Terms to apply.
By the way, before the bombshell lawsuit from Sheel Seidler, it was reported that the teams that might be in on Roki Sasaki were teams that were going to try to acquire additional international money January 15th.
Right.
So that's why we were like, well, why isn't he going to sign January 15th? Because the reason he might wait until January 23rd or closer, that's when he has to sign by, is that teams can actually acquire more money once we hit January 15th.
But it's also, risky for the teams that don't land Sasaki. If they wait this out,
right,
then they potentially could lose out on some international players.
Absolutely.
And if they end up I would have to believe that the team that lands Roki is going to know beforehand, maybe so they can then
make the moves necessary.
Right. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah, it was reported. Yes, I agree. So teams that may be in on Roki would not sign any big international prospects January 15th. Padres have been heavily involved in international players under the current rules and the former rules too. So are they quiet on the 15th? And then on the 15/16, 17, are they acquiring additional pool money internationally that they could then give to Sasaki? Now, everything that's come out today, I'm highly skeptical that the Padres land Roki Sasaki.
Now I am, yeah.
I hate to say it that way, and I don't know if it's as clear as one lawsuit is the reason why this player is coming or not coming. I have no idea. But there may be at least an indicator we'll be aware of come the 15th. Do the Padres sign players on the 15th internationally? If the answer is yes, they might be out on Sasaki. If they're quiet on the 15th and acquire some money internationally, maybe they're still in on Sasaki. The way the Padres are operating right now, I don't expect them to do anything on the 15th because they just don't do anything.
Now, it's going to be interesting if, all of a sudden the Dodgers make a trade for international pool money. Then you're like, okay,
it's done.
He's going to the Dodgers.
I mean, right now.
Or like the Giants or the Rangers. Or if one team that's in on Roki,
right,
all of a sudden, out of nowhere, makes a trade for international signing money.
Yep.
Then just put 2 and 2 together. Probably going there.
Right now, I'm led to believe it's the LA Dodgers. I'd be surprised if it's not the LA Dodgers. I'm not going to say the Padres can't land Sasaki. I just feel a lot less optimistic about it today than I felt yesterday. And I already thought they were probably, again, among the favorites, but never the favorite. We've said that a lot in this process. I think they're among the favorites, but never the favorite. And you just start putting 2 and 2 together. If it's not going to be the Padres, then the Dodgers are the clear front runner. They appear to be the clear front runner in this pursuit for Roki Sasaki, and the rich keep getting richer. And it's been reported all offseason, and that might be spot on that the Dodgers land Sasaki.
Yeah, before today, I always thought Dodgers or Padres. I've said this. If he didn't go to the Dodgers or the Padres, I'd be shocked.
Right.
I'm hard pressed to think that now he's coming here. There's too many bad things that have happened since game 4 of the NLDS to all of a sudden just a snap of their fingers. Oh, they land Sasaki. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that is an about face.
It's one of those what can get worse gets worse.
Yeah, Murphy's Law.
Murphy's Law. What goes up must come down.
I don't think that's Murphy's Law.
That's not Murphy's Law. What's Murphy's Law?
I think Murphy's Law is whatever can go wrong will go wrong.
That's what it is. That's what it is. That's what I was looking for.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah. What can go wrong will go wrong and continues to go wrong for this franchise. To think that all of a sudden they're going to just land this superstar phenom 23-year-old out of nowhere after everything that's happened, hard pressed.
If Preller pulls it off, put a statue somewhere. Like
if he pulls it off, baby.
Yeah, like that's incredible. Again, I'm with you. I'm hard pressed to envision he does. Can he even get an in-person out of this? Maybe. I mean, it sounds like Sasaki's coming back to the States and he's going to meet with some teams in person because he's got time. He might not know.
Is there a rose ceremony?
It should be, dude.
Can we have that televised, please?
That's it. I would watch that.
Oh my gosh, I'd be at the edge of my seat.
I would watch
like
that.
the Padres and the Giants are like the two teams remaining. And he has one rose left.
Dude.
You're like, oh my God.
I know. So we wait on that. I mean, Roki was the story of the offseason, but the story of the offseason is now this lawsuit filed by Sheel Seidler. They still have these decisions to make. Dylan Cease, Luis Arraez. Arraez had said publicly he wants to settle in somewhere long term. I mean, is that even possible here? Like, are they going to all of a sudden be doling out 5-year contracts?
No.
During this litigation?
That's why this is scary. Another thing, we haven't even touched on this, but like, you know, hearing last segment there about from Eben about this could take like a long time,
right?
Like 5, 6, 7 years. You know whose contract is up then? That would be one Jackson Merrill. And if you can't sign any big time contracts in that time being to lock up guys, that's like, that's a problem.
I mean, if this really takes 5, 6, 7 years to play out, and it's very possible.
Very possible.
It's happened with other organizations, then they're screwed. Like simply, like if this really took 5, 6, 7 years to play out, and by the way, it would be playing out with all this money on the books. Manny Machado's late prime and Xander Bogaerts' late prime and Tatis's prime. Like, what a waste if it played out that way and you were paralyzed by this infighting and litigation. And you were just reserved to, you know, a good year's 86 wins and a bad year's 76 wins for 6 straight years.
Because the last thing fans want is the first story of the offseason every year is what's going on with the ownership group.
Right.
Like, let's talk about the moves that they make. Let's talk about the trades. Let's talk about, you know, how they can get better, like prospect, like, but instead we're talking about the future of this organization and how it's just now in such a murky flux. You know, I don't know what's going to happen. No one knows what's going to happen now, but I can tell you this, after today, it doesn't feel like this is a nothing burger at all. This feels like this is like a tip of the iceberg potential franchise moment where things can go south.
100%. This is a massive moment in the history of the Padres organization. And unfortunately, it's not a good moment in the history of the club. Will they be sold? Does it put them out on the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes? What does it mean for their long-term contracts and players that they have under contract? What does it mean for their ability to maintain competitiveness moving forward? All these questions are open-ended and unanswered.
Yeah.
And should be discussed, by the way. And that's why we are here, as you guys know.
And it makes last year feel like even worse now, right?
Yeah, like if you won the World Series and then this happened, I'd be like, well, I won the World Series, guys.
Yeah, parade was fun.
Yeah, like
it was a cool
you got
parade.
the World Series.
Yeah, that trophy's awesome.
Right.
But because of how it ended, and you had a 2-1 lead on the Dodgers, and then you wet the bed and you went 24 scoreless innings, and you lose to the Dodgers, and then they go on to win the World Series. It's like, bro.
Who would have ever thought 24 scoreless innings is third on the last like 6 months in terms of interest? For me, Roki is above that right now in terms of relevancy. Yeah, the 24 innings is always going to hang over them. But the 24 scoreless innings, the Roki Sasaki sweepstakes, and now the bombshell litigation filed by Sheel Seidler for control of the team.
A lawsuit, yeah.
That is going to potentially hang over this franchise for years to come unless it's somehow settled. And again, the big loser is us. It's Padres fans, it's people that consume and just want to see this team win at a high level. And this just seems like it's getting in the way of trying to win at a high level.
Yeah, it's brutal. Like the fans are the ones that are the collateral damage here, because the direction of this franchise could potentially go towards a sale, or it could go towards, well, guess what? They're not going to make any big moves ever again. Like for the next 5-6 years. And guess what happens in those 5-6 years, John? The contracts of Manny and Xander, they get worse and worse, and you have no pitching. And if you lost out on Roki, like
you said, your mind starts going all these places where I'm like, well, what if like Preller walks? Like you get 6-12 months from here and this organization is
what
unstable.
if they fire Preller?
And not even that. What if they just say, you know what, you're under contract through 2026, but you walk, and the Cubs will pay you to be there? You're good. You can walk.
Yeah, inevitably this team will suck again. Inevitably. In the next 50 years, John, this team will have a season where they suck.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so it's not like this team, it's like, oh my God, they're now going to not be good potentially.
Right.
Like,
it's not like they've been good every year for the last 50.
Right. Yeah. It's inevitable that a team will have a bad year. Look at the Niners. They had an awful
and they're
season.
a good franchise.
And they're just in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
And the Yankees have had quote unquote bad years. They have.
Yeah. But the window they have now here is like, you got to be good, because if you're not, these are wasteful seasons with the contracts we have. And now
that's a good point.
The up and down nature of this ownership group, like, you can't really afford to have many just seasons that, are one-offs with the contracts you have. You got to capitalize when you can.
2025, man, it's a fair point. You got Manny Machado and you have Yu Darvish and you've got Fernando Tatis Jr. and Xander Bogaerts. I mean, you got to kind of win right now, because who knows what the future looks like with this organization after today against Sheel Seidler filing that lawsuit against the Seidler brothers for control of the San Diego Padres. If you missed our conversation with the author, we had it for you at 5 p.m. Find us. Search for Jon and Jim on the free iHeartRadio app. Find us on YouTube. You'll be able to find the interview there. And again, at sportssd.com as well. What a day. On the other side, Jim's back page, further reaction to this bombshell lawsuit filed by the widow of Peter Seidler. We are here until 6 p.m. And don't go anywhere, because coming up next, we'll give away Aztec basketball tickets as well for Wednesday night. It's Jon and Jim.
All right, starting next Monday, San Diego Sports 760 has 9 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Brand in Your Hand Cash Contest. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Starting next Monday, listen to the keyword and enter it at sportssd.com. Starting next Monday at 6 a.m. Presented by Palomar Solar, your trusted partner for solar, batteries, and roofing. Before we get to the back page real quick, we have to give away Aztec basketball tickets. We have a pair. They are yours if you are caller 5. Wednesday night against Air Force, 7:30 for the Aztecs, coming off that huge win over Boise State. 877-767-4760. Caller 5, you're going. 877-767-4760.
We haven't even talked about the Aztec basketball game really today.
Not near as much as we should be, and we will tomorrow. We did have Ryan Battertelli on, assistant coach with the Aztecs at 3:30, but that was a big win.
It was a massive win, especially coming off that loss to Utah State at home. Metrically, it helped them out. It was a quad 1 win.
Yep.
Miles Bird played amazing. The only thing you wish is that they just made their free throws, because if they made their free throws, the game would have been close.
Yeah, they missed 5 of 8 in the final minute, but they win by 8 in Boise. They were a 4.5-point underdog. They went up 13 spots in the net from 48 to 35 off the win. So they're right back where they need to be, and we'll see if they can hold serve back at home Wednesday night against the Air Force Academy. These are more the must-wins.
Yep.
Like the Boise, they got good metrics. You don't have to win. You love to win. Against the bottom of the league, quote-unquote, you have to win, and they need to win Wednesday night.
Yeah, it just, going to a place where you have not had success recently. Was it 3 straight losses there?
Yeah.
1 and 6 in the last 7.
Yeah, that's right.
1 and 6 in the last 7 trips to Boise. And I'm not saying they handled Boise, but they
It's a good win.
It was a sellout at Boise. And by the end of that game, everyone was filing out quickly.
They were. And again, San Diego State had lost 6 of 7 in Boise and 6 of 7 overall against Boise State. So the Broncos had really had the Aztecs number. A very good win for San Diego State to kick off 2025. All right, Brent's going to try to do 2 things at once. Can you give us this? Have we missed anything?
Cinemark, John, is celebrating National Popcorn Day on January 19th with a special promotion.
Okay.
All you need to do is BYOB. Bring your own bucket.
That's cool.
To any Cinemark theater, and employees will fill it up for $5. Cinemark is also offering $5 XL popcorn buckets if you choose not to bring your own container. The thing here, though, that is weird is like they're not prefaced by saying it has to be a bucket. It could be like a trash can. Like,
are you serious?
It could be like, you could say it's a bucket. So it's like kind of teetering on the actual terminology of things, but at the same time, National Popcorn Day is on January 19th, and to bring your bucket there, fill it up for $5. How you doing?
I kind of want to do that. Although, are there any movies to see?
Right now,
I don't feel like January is a big movie month. Is it?
It's typically not.
Okay. Maybe that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
All right.
No.
Well, I'll just go there, fill up my bucket for $5 and sit in the lobby and eat popcorn.
Yeah, exactly. It's a crumble week, John.
Yes, it is every week, right?
All right. It is every week. I got to get some crumble cookies.
I know you do.
I've been seeing a lot more people on like TikTok, just like trying crumble cookies.
Okay.
And their channels are like blowing up for it.
Are you serious?
Yeah. They just sit in their car and they just eat crumble cookies, and they just test them out and tell you how they taste.
Maybe we should do that.
And a lot of times I see these people eating the crumble cookies, and look, they look delicious, but a lot of them look doughy. Like they just look like very soft.
I kind of like a doughy.
I love a doughy, but at the same, but I also kind of like a little crisp.
Okay.
I like a little texture to it. Give me a little texture.
Okay.
So we got cookie dough. We have French toast. We have churro.
Okay.
We have original pink sugar. We have milk chocolate and almond. We have vanilla crumb cake. And we have cookies and cream.
They all sound good to start 2025. I mean, nothing crazy in there, right? Is there anything crazy?
No, nothing crazy.
But we're back to the new year. You just like do what you do well.
Yeah, give me one cookie that you just would have to try.
Show them to. I mean, cookies and cream is on there, right?
Cookies and cream.
You cannot go wrong with cookies and cream.
Cookies and cream is on there.
See,
for me,
yeah,
I hear a lot of good things. I might go with original pink sugar.
Original pink sugar. What does that mean? Like a sugar cookie?
It's like a sugar cookie with pink frosting on it.
Okay.
Also, the churro looks amazing.
Right.
And
I mean, they're all good.
And French toast isn't even a cookie.
No, it's not. But yeah, you can't go wrong.
No. So they're the crumble cookies.
Sponsor the show
of
Crumble.
the week. Yeah, we really need a crumble sponsor.
Right?
Yeah.
Email us.
Yeah, please. And finally, the record for a jersey sold at an auction. Ready for this?
Yeah.
$800 million.
No. A jersey was sold for
Sorry. I said this wrong. Sorry, I was wrong. Heritage Auctions topped out at $800 million sales in 2024.
All of their auctions.
Yeah, led by the Babe Ruth jersey and the Wizard of Oz slippers.
How much was the Babe Ruth jersey?
What do we got here? Doesn't say, but it accumulated over $800 million.
In jersey auctions?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Auctions from Jersey and the Wizard of Oz slippers.
Yeah, didn't you talk about the Wizard of Oz slippers before they went for millions and millions?
Oh yeah, dude. They went for
ruby
like
red
$5 million or something.
Right.
Some crazy number.
Okay.
So
all right. There's the back page.
There we go.
All right. Well, here's the deal. If you missed anything today, and we still got a couple of minutes, but sportssd.com, I mean, we covered the story from A to Z, and we're going to talk more about it tonight on the wrap-up show. So find us tonight on YouTube at 9:30. We'll talk about the Padres and what comes next. I mean, this was the last thing the first Monday of the new year, you're like, it's the start of the year.
Right.
Like, you're thinking positively, thinking about making it a good year and, whatever. You're thinking about working out, eating healthy, your job, your children, your lives, what to make of 2025. And then 2025 starts like this with a lawsuit and who's going to be in control of the San Diego Padres.
Like I fully thought waking up this morning, we were going to go on like our 9th straight day of Roki Sasaki.
100%. Oh, this ended the Roki Sasaki run.
It really did. It really did.
In terms of like headlines and leads. We barely talked about Roki today.
Barely. And the only thing we talk about Roki with is when he was mentioned in the lawsuit.
Yeah, exactly. He was literally mentioned in the lawsuit. And now and the problem is it's not going to be resolved tomorrow. We're not going to come on the air tomorrow and be like, resolution, Sheel settled with the Seidler brothers. And
no, it's not going to settle. Like this is a thing that's going to happen for a long time.
By the way, a week from tonight, we do have NFL postseason action. You can listen to it at 5 p.m. Rams football against the Vikings. That's Monday night at 5 p.m. Right here on San Diego Sports 76. Weekend playoff football for you as well. Chargers action on Saturday. All right, join us tonight on YouTube for a wrap-up show at 9:30. If you missed anything today, sportssd.com, iHeartRadio app, iTunes Radio, or Spotify. All right, for Brent and Jim, I'm John. Happy New Year again. We'll see you tonight and again tomorrow right here on San Diego Sports 760 at 2 p.m. Take care. Bye-bye.